for staying tuned. The lineup today includes an incredible conversation with Grace Unagu, a registered nurse who will be helping us learn more about colonoscopy, what, who, and why.
And also Dr. Kolajo Bolawatiwi, a general health care practitioner, joins us later to take a closer look at good old breastfeeding. Is it going out of fashion? Remember, we will take you around the continent of Africa and beyond with so many interesting sights and seeing sights and sound, information.
Yes. And that name is Boluwatiwi.
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 Boluwatiwi. Okay.
Yeah.
As the Lord said
Kolajo
it.
Boluwatiwi. So we'll be having Kolajo Boluwatiwi with us later in the show. So earlier in the year, the can-do spirit of the Nigerian people was showcased in a strong-willed and adventure-hungry young person. Her story is fascinating as it is inspiring. The Counter Conversation segment with Chizabam Ofegu brings us face-to-face with this very special offering.
And because we are driven by spontaneity and the surprise factor, you never know. We could just bring in one or two surprises on the show today. So, what are we saying? That you need to stay with us from now until the end of the show, and you will be glad that you did. Yes. Okay, time now to engage John briefly. He's been messing around with my head lately.
Do see that on
Yes,
there.
you have been. So
What's going on?
what's changing this John from
Yes.
the very sweet, calm, should I continue?
Can you see the horns on?
What's up, John?
Well,
How
really,
you doing?
yeah, nothing much has changed. We're still feeling the pinch of the fuel prices. Yes, okay, the queues may have disappeared, but the pinch is still in the pocket.
Have they disappeared really?
The queues have more or less, compared to a month ago, now you can drive in and maybe after like 4 or 5 cars, it's your turn, and then you download all of your pockets just to fuel your tank, and that's the painful bit. That's the painful
And
bit.
as this is the sad thing is that no matter how much noise, in fact, the more noise we're making is like silence, quiet from the quarters where we need them to hear and probably move to action.
Okay. Now we're like a ping pong. The NNPC, whatever they call them, and Dangote.
And all of that
much is
things
it
we do
going
not
to be?
understand.
And we don't really care. Now, we don't care how much it costs. Just make it available because we've had it up to.
And it becomes more and more evident on a daily basis that really, our point of view, our feelings, our cries, our suffering, everything is really come to nothing, when you look at the bigger picture.
Never mind.
Yeah?
Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like you, life is beautiful. Like
Life is beautiful.
Yeah.
Life is beautiful.
And all I can say is we shall overcome. Our first guest joins us now to answer all the questions on colonoscopy. Yep.
Okay, and she's an outgoing, compassionate, and dedicated caregiver with interest in healthcare, advocacy and community service, and a lot more. Grace Unagu, a registered nurse, is interested in making a positive impact in healthcare, particularly cancer prevention and early detection. Let's talk colonoscopy. What, who, and why with Grace Unagu. The medical space is so blessed to have you, people like you. It's good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, so today is John and Helen live together with our numerous viewers. I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you.
The nursing profession, catches my attention. So let's start with a quick job describing who is a nurse.
A nurse in the traditional form is a caregiver.
Okay.
So you will wonder, everybody can give care, anybody can give care.
You can nurse.
Yes, but a nurse, a scientific nurse, is a person who gives care with a reason, an objective, a plan and an outcome in mind, with parameters to evaluate them.
Wow.
To be sure that those outcomes are met through those plans and the general objective is achieved. So it is a continuous activity.
It's a deliberate, intentional,
Yes.
focused, whatever I call it.
Yes.
Assignments.
And most importantly, individualized care.
Wow.
Because patient A, client
Different
B
from-
is
they're
different from
different.
every other person.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Beautiful. You know, I've shared like 30 minutes with you prior to this on-air conversation, and you've been amazing. You know, look at that smile again. And that's the smile that we need in the hospital wards. You know, like when the patient is so anxious, has no idea what's going to happen to him or her, and you come in, you walk in with this
With that
smile. It's like the sickness disappears. But we don't see a lot of that in our hospital wards. We'll get to that later. Grace, could you start by breaking it down for us? What exactly is colonoscopy? And why should we be paying attention to it at this point in time?
Colonoscopy, the word is jaw-breaking, but it's a very simple procedure. It's the gold standard for the diagnosis and detection of bowel cancer.
What
Wow.
cancer?
Bowel. The bowel is the large intestine and the rectum, because those are the main areas where cancers occur in the intestine. That's the food pipe.
Okay.
So colonoscopy looks at the lower parts of your intestine, and it is a simple procedure, does not require anesthesia, and it's easier than visiting a dentist.
Oh.
It's easier than
Yes,
Okay.
I've been to the dentist several times. I've had a colonoscopy, and I can tell you it's
The
easier than
difference.
going for a dentist appointment. So, and colonoscopy is the international standard of diagnosing colorectal cancer. So you hear me use colorectal cancer, bowel cancer interchangeably. They're all the same.
the same.
We are all talking about cancers that happen in the intestine,
Okay.
the large intestine.
Okay, now tell me, well, from age 1, 2, 3 to 27, 30, we hear very little about colonoscopy. But once we cross a certain threshold, you know, we start hearing that word colonoscopy more frequently. So at what point in our lives, you know, should we really start thinking about getting a colonoscopy? Is there a specific age or circumstance to watch out for?
There are circumstances, but most importantly, age
Okay.
is the highest factor for that. Once you're 45 years and above,
45.
45. It used to be 50, but research found that younger people below 50 started developing cancers. So the age was dropped about 5 years on now to 45 years. So, and that is why colonoscopy is very important, because colorectal cancer is a silent killer. It doesn't show any symptom.
Colorectal.
Yes,
That's
the colon,
in the colon
yeah, and the rectum.
and the rectum. Okay,
Yes.
colorectal.
Colorectal
Okay.
is hyphenated.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a silent killer. It doesn't show any symptom. It's just there. Starts off as a small polyp, precancerous. Over time, over years, as you age, it ages with you, and eventually, before the prime of your lifetime, it becomes a cancer. So that is why cancer is important.
It becomes, or it may become.
It may become.
Okay.
Thank you. It may become a cancer. So that is why it's important for early screening, starting off at 45. The advantage is people who have early screenings tend to prevent it in their later stage in life. So because it's ages with you. So that's why it's important. So age is a factor to consider, and certain changes in your bowel habits if you open your bowel once a day and you find out you go more often, or you get constipated, or you start to have loose stools, it's something to look out for. And importantly, you see blood in your stool for any reason, do not suggest, do not assume. Make sure that once you see blood in your stool, you visit a doctor to check it out.
Okay.
Someone might argue there are other ways to detect it, the capsule endoscopy, FIT test, and all of those. CT scan, yes, they could, but if they do all those tests, they will refer you back again to get a colonoscopy.
To do the colonoscopy.
Because that is the only way it can be visualized and the polyps excised. And the downside of it is getting all those other tests, you will still require to take the bowel prep, which many people run away from.
Wow.
The bowel prep.
Yes.
That is when the
colon is
cleaned out.
Yeah, cleaned out within
that
24
one
hours.
can be. Yes, I've had something like that, and whoa, that was a session.
My goodness.
That one is even more. That bit is even more
Yeah, it's more comfortable than the main procedure. Yes.
So colonoscopy is a procedure.
It's a procedure.
Is a test.
Yes.
You know, to find out whether the
Polyps
actual
are there
okay.
that could cause a cancer in
Okay.
the future.
Okay. All right. So a lot of people feel nervous or are uncomfortable about the idea of getting this procedure done.
Yeah.
What are some common fears or the myths, any, if any, that you have come across, and how do you help with patients, you know, at ease?
I've come across a couple of those fears, myths, misconceptions. Oh, it's painful. No. Colonoscopy is not painful. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And with advancement in science, you know, people no longer require anesthesia that will keep them in, put them into deep sleep. All you need is mild sedation. We call it conscious sedation. You're sedated, but you're awake. You can converse. Most of our patients during their procedures are chatting with us. They're looking at the screen and saying, oh, that's a, by the time we identify a couple polyps, they can now identify themselves and say, oh, that's a polyp. They show us, they're awake, they're participatory. So that's one of it. It's not painful. So the sedatives make you relaxed and you're comfortable through it. The other one is, oh, I'm healthy. I hardly fall sick. I don't need any tests. I don't need any screening. But, and then you hear the word, something must kill a man. I agree, something must kill a man, but it shouldn't be colon cancer.
Wow.
It shouldn't kill anybody. So, and it's a silent killer. It doesn't announce itself. So you need to get tested.
Yeah.
So that if it's there, you find it out.
Which is where I'm going now, because I mean we can only see our external. You stand in front of a mirror from now to tomorrow. You won't see. So we don't really know what's
Inside.
happening inside. So what are the warning signs? You know that might suggest that someone should get a colonoscopy earlier than that recommended age of 45. Like, is it 45 male and female or
45 male and female.
okay?
Black and white.
So what are some of the warning signs? Do I like have tummy ache? Do I bleed? What?
So one of the warning signs now is if any of your parents died of any cancer at all, you should get screened.
At 45?
Yes. Now we have added that as part of our program where we lost patients to cancer, colon cancer, so we get all their family, their children to get early screening. And then another thing is, for any reason you notice blood in your stool, you move bowel and you see blood, please do not rationalize it, do not think it could be this, don't assume, go to your doctor and get screened. And another one is unexplained weight loss. All of a sudden you are not on any special diet nothing, and you notice you're losing weight. And then anemia is one of it. But the sad point about anemia is by the time we get patients start to have anemia, which could cause weakness and all of that, it's usually advanced. And the bad part to it is it doesn't have these signs I've talked about could happen in other medical conditions.
Okay.
So it's always good to go to a good doctor, because we have
good or not so good.
we have not everybody who does colonoscopy is a colonoscopist. Yes.
It's not done in every hospital.
It's not done in every hospital.
Okay.
And even some hospitals, no apologies, even some hospitals that do it just do not still do it well.
Okay.
We've gotten some referrals that they've done elsewhere and said it was normal, and we come back to repeat it because the person keeps having symptoms, and you find out that there is actually a cancer.
Okay, so we know that you have dealt with a lot of people, who have needed this procedure over the years. Can you share maybe a story that's an experience that stands out, so that we can get more of the people who are watching and listening to us to say, okay, I need to get this, probably take another look at my health. And
I love that question, Helen, because I think she has a personal experience.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's have
I have an expo on that.
It must be I have a personal experience. So we say by age 45 you should get screened. So I'll be 40 in 2 years. So 2 years ago, so do the addition and subtraction. I started noticing changes in my bowel habits. It's constipation this time. It's diarrhea the other time. I wasn't comfortable with it being an endoscopist, so I reached out to my doctor. I said, I need a colonoscopy. He said, Grace, why do you need it? I said, I need it. And eventually he scoped me, and there was a polyp.
He scoped you. Okay.
So this polyp thing, what is it?
Polyp,
You've used that word like
Yes.
100 times today.
polyps are small growths that just start off in the colon. There's no cause, but we could say some risk factors like diet, lifestyle, genes, obesity, and smoking. So those lifestyle habits are the risk factors. So those are the things that, if left in the colon, can grow bigger, become tumors, and could become cancerous.
Okay.
So that's the whole essence of having a colonoscopy. So if those polyps are detected when they are still precancerous, they can be taken out through some specialized procedures. During the procedure, you don't have to go and come.
Okay, during that procedure, just take it out.
And all of this, I'm saying, happens just within 15 to 30 minutes maximum.
Okay.
So, and the polyp was excised. And my doctor turned and looked at me and said, Grace, I love your guts. Keep following your instincts. It saves life.
Wow.
So
There's a little pun in there.
yeah.
Loves your guts. I just finished from your guts.
So I was happy, because thinking of it and the size it was at that time, by 40 it would have been a lot more something different. So after that, I've always taken passion in what I do, but I made it more of a personal business to get people to get screened. The nervousness, anxiety is part of it. It's even when you're about to take your blood pressure, you get some nervousness. But my team and I, we've developed an educational system where we educate patients on what to expect before the procedure, during, and after. We don't lie to them. We don't make ambiguous assumptions. We just tell you how it is. We keep an open communication. You can reach us out 247, regardless of the time in the day, if you have any concerns. And by the time we go through that process, pre-procedure, we've bonded so well, we've created rapport, and they come, have their procedure, they are relaxed. We are chatting during your procedure. You can call this nurse by her name, call that doctor by his first name, and well, they're done. You're here. Are you done?
Are you done? And that's quite interesting.
Is that it?
Yeah, I have a personal experience where I was having a procedure done, and the nurse was just rubbing my head and talking to me, and before I knew it, I was gone. I just fell asleep. I just fell asleep. She was nothing, just touching my head and talking to me and just very caressing. And you know I love those things. Okay, so back to awareness.
Yeah.
Because for what you just said, you make them familiar with what's going on. But let's talk general awareness now. So colon cancer awareness isn't as widespread in Nigeria as it should be. So why do you think this is so, and what can we do to spread the word?
Honestly, why I think it's so is the fact that Nigerians prefer to conquer problems when it arises.
Rather than
yes, before it comes. And the religious thing is not my portion. God forbid. Is also a challenge in creating awareness. So instead of taking proactive measures to get ahead of it before it comes, get screened, they say, I'm not well, I don't need it. So, and one thing we can do to improve on the awareness rate is what we are doing now.
Okay.
We're educating the public, and very importantly, starting with yourself. John gets screened.
Yeah.
Helen
gets screened.
I got you.
And once John does his screening, he will tell his friend, Egbo, you need to do this thing now. Helen goes back home and tell her sisters, you all need to do this, her siblings, you all need to do this. And it keeps spreading. Sometimes we get referrals from people we don't recall we have screened. They say, oh, it was this person. We've had people even pay for others to get screened.
Okay, now you just mentioned pay. In this season that we're in now, and with the job you're doing, trying to bring clinical endoscopy nursing to Nigeria, how pocket-friendly is it? Who can afford this?
Anybody who is determined to take care of their health can afford it. The unit where I practice at is only about 200,000. And that is not the cost of a bottle of Glendifield 21 years.
I know.
That is not the price of 20 karat gold. And that is not what we used to buy our Gucci bags. Even the market woman, if she starts to save for it, from time, she will accrue that money.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's affordable and cost-friendly.
Yeah, that sounds encouraging.
We're almost winding up.
We're almost winding up. So let's just look at the future. I mean, now you're here with us. I mean, you've gotten us interested in colonoscopy.
Yeah.
So what more should we expect from you in the future, in the immediate future?
Yes.
As Grace Onagu.
As Grace Onagu,
yes,
we may not achieve much.
Okay.
But as Grace Onagu and team, there's a lot that we are planning to achieve. One is having more interventional endoscopists in Nigeria. In Nigeria, having more nurse endoscopists, educationists, having more clinical practice centers, and we are into some partnership with some doctors here in Nigeria and in diaspora, AMPA is also planning something to have free screening.
Who's AMPA?
AMPA was here last year.
Yeah, AMPA was here in April.
That's the American Medical Practitioners Association.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I remember with Rotary we did a few.
Yes, Rotary did a few, part of their project.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, and some other individual persons as well. Some hospitals like First Cardiology Consultants, they have this.
They will pay for this.
So this is a specialized area.
It's a very highly specialized area. Okay. Nobody can just dabble into it and say, oh, what is that? No, it's a lot. Okay. It's technical, it requires skills, it requires education, it requires years of training, because you could see something that is not polyp and say it's a polyp. You could see the valve in the ileum and you say, oh, that's a polyp, and you excise it.
Okay. Wow.
Great.
Wow.
I will leave the patients with a perforated colon.
Oh, so not our portion.
Not our portion.
I concur. Not our portion.
That's all. Thank you
so
so much.
That's why it's important you choose your colonoscopist, just like you choose who makes your dress.
Okay.
Yes.
Better soup. Na money killer.
Make that money.
Okay.
And you know, when you ride in a Rolls Royce and you ride in a Peugeot,
the feel is different.
The feel is different.
Okay. Okay.
I like that.
Thank you so much for coming. You are so much of wheat.
The ideal nurse.
Yeah, the ideal nurse.
I'm flattered.
In the world where you are attending to patients. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much. I'm honored
Thank you so much. Thank
you. It's a pleasure being here.
So,
thank you.
We have to remember our interest first is, towards ourselves and our health, and how that is possible so far as colonoscopy is concerned. We've been addressed. We've been scoped today extensively. Thanks so much, Grace. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We applaud you and wish you all the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
All right, there she is, our first guest and our first conversation on colonoscopy done with. Next is Culture Conversation segment, and Chizoba Ofebu invites you to join her and her die-hard guest for an unforgettable experience. It's a conversation you don't want to miss. Chizoba, over to you. Okay, you're still there.
Yeah, I was going to say that, remember, still to come is a very interesting and exciting foray into the breastfeeding world. Is it still fashionable to provide this motherhood service? Has modernity and civilization robbed us of the magic and benefits of breastfeeding? Find out later, but right now, Chizoba is ready to fly. Over.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. When they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
You're in a queue, for example, and you go to some places or some countries and the queue is the queue. You have to join from the back, right? And that's conducive because, hey, I was here before you, makes sense. But then you find some people that they just don't have the time and everybody is in a hurry and they jump to the front stylishly and feel they will get away with it. Sometimes some people just don't want trouble and they just leave you with your, your actions. But then you will find in some places where people don't like it, they don't condone it, and they will call you out. Excuse me, the queue is at the back. We need to see more of that nowadays.
You've probably experienced a scenario like this. You're waiting in line for a service or to buy something, and someone who sees the long queue comes along and goes straight to the front of the line, completely disregarding everyone standing. In most cases, some people on the queue will speak up, but some will look on with utter disbelief. With teeming population, it is almost inevitable not to experience queuing. If you're not queuing at the bus station, you're queuing at the ATM or in the bank, or to get tickets to your favorite show. Queuing is a way to create orderliness and to ensure that there is some fairness. But like clockwork, there will always be the impatient ones, or the ones who feel too smart that they find a way to jump the queue. Queues are not created to simply waste time, but to ensure orderliness, because the chaos that happens without the orderliness leaves a lot of people bitter, angry, and helpless. The reason why queuing is challenging for us can be associated with the way we see it. Darden Professor Elliot N. Weiss and colleagues Graham Gillam, Kylie Simmons, and Donald Stevenson explained that across the globe, people wait for food and transportation, to make purchases, to get services, or to have experiences. But how they view the wait, what the rules are, and what they expect vary widely. Some cultures see needing to wait as almost always negative, while in other societies, seeing there is a line can signal there's something worth waiting for.
In an environment where they don't call it out and they allow people to jump the queue, and jumping the queue becomes normal and the norm, they won't say anything wrong with it. They will continue to do it because they can't see the bad in it. You get to an environment where, hey, it's not possible for you to ever think of jumping the queue because people say, get back. Excuse me, we've been here before you, join the queue. There and then you notice that you've done something wrong. It conditions your mindset. I can't jump the queue in this environment. It's not acceptable. And so you begin to readjust yourself. It's a culture change.
Instead of seeing queues as a waste of time, see it as a way to better manage time. It is also a way to ensure fairness and equity. The next time you feel the urge to jump a queue, don't. Instead, remember some of these guidelines. Make up your mind if you will join the queue or not. Once you have joined the queue, stay in your line. You may decide to ask what the waiting time is before you join the queue. Some organizations will provide this service. Try to stay in lane, only reserve by using someone you know. Never say you were behind someone in a queue. Wait for someone to be behind you before you leave the queue if you must. Respect other people's space while on the queue. Watch your conversation on the phone, keep it confidential. Watch your...
Welcome to another exciting episode of Culture Conversations. My name is Chizoba Mofebo. I remain your host. Today we are going to have an amazing conversation with an amazing human being, the first woman to do a road travel from London to Lagos successfully, Miss Pelumi Nubi. She's going to be joining us virtually, and we're just going to be picking her brain on the daring Nigerian mind. What kind of mindset did she have to be able to make that kind of journey? And she chronicled it, so we saw the difficulty of it. And at some point, I was like, if it was me, I would have just turned back or become a native of this community that I'm having that problem in. But she moved on, she dared, and she finally got to Lagos in good health. And there was a warm welcome, and she's still being warmly received all over the world. But today we have the onerous privilege of having an interview with Pelumi Nubi. She is a purpose-driven travel content creator and connector who thrives on exploring less commonly visited countries. She's currently living in Dubai, and she's the first woman to solo drive from London to Lagos, calling both the UK and Nigeria home while having ventured to 80 countries across 6 continents. Her engaging content inspires her community to embrace life with fearlessness and embody true freedom. She is committed to showing that travel can be safe, easy, and achievable, particularly for Black women who want to travel solo. She will be my first guest, and she's joining virtually because she is in London. So let's meet Pelumi Nubi.
Wow,
hi, Pelumi.
What a warm welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm like, is that me? Wow.
I'm sure this is a very summarized version of everything that you have done and achieved. You know, thank you so much for doing what you did, because you changed a lot for women especially. You know, it might not even be just the woman who wants to travel. It might be the woman who is going through something, a journey of hers that might not need to be on the road, right? But it's a journey she's on, and she's been thinking, oh, you know, this is too formidable for me. But watching you as you chronicled, there were a lot of mindsets changed and a lot of new mindsets planted. Thank you so much for what you did, Pelumi. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, so the Nigerian mind is a fantastic mind. I mean, we're touted all over the world as just being superhuman, and I agree. Do you understand? You know, so for you, how did you get there? What was, when you thought about it, because you're well traveled, so obviously you knew the stops you were going to make. You knew it was going to be such a difficult journey. You knew it was going on your own. You had sort of an idea of some things you would meet. At what point, what day, what was the thought process that led you to the day that you said, I'm doing this? You know,
I believe representation is such a big thing. Seeing someone else do something similar to you has always been a great, and that's why I wanted to do this adventure, because I found within the Overland community, there was not enough representation. So that's the first thing first. And even more importantly, what you just said about, I use travel as the, model. But what I want people to look at and say, you know what, if I thought, London to Lagos, solo drive is impossible, and now I've seen Pelumi do it, I can then go out to do other things I consider impossible. So the date or the month in which I knew that this journey was going to start was in September 2002. So it took a year plus of planning. And I always believe and advocate for planning too as well, to make yourself as ready as you can. But it's until you set that goal, which I was like, you know what, on the 24th of January, it is my niece's birthday. I'm going to, pick up the engine. I bought the ferry ticket I was going to use to cross from the UK to France. And it was going to happen whether I liked it or not. So yeah, there was definitely a set deadline that had to come into place.
Okay. So I'm sure on the journey, you got to know a lot about yourself that you did not know. You found out a lot about yourself that you did not. Can you just give us 3 things that you found out about yourself that shocked you or pleased you?
Pleased me was definitely the strength I had. I knew I was a strong, audacious person, but like you said, there were circumstances during the road trip that if I said deuces and I packed my bag, nobody would be upset with me. Post-accident, for example, when it happened in Ivory Coast, if I just said, you know what, I'm looking after my health, no one would have questioned me ending the trip at that point. But there was this depth that I didn't realize I had, or this strength. They say when you hit rock bottom and you're able to crawl out of that, that's when you really appreciate your strength. So that's definitely something. Number 2 is how self-motivated and self-resilient I am, in terms of just, hearing naysayers, who sent you, not just people that have opinions and they will not do such an adventure by themselves. Then that was definitely something I learned. I learned I'm crazy, and crazy is such a good thing. I tell people, look, if nobody has called you crazy this year, you're playing it too safe. Like, you're really playing it too safe in life. It means that you're not being audacious. I say, if someone call me crazy, it means I am doing something that they cannot even comprehend. Do you know how powerful that is?
Yes.
So that is something that I definitely just, got to know more about. Community, the importance of community. I was able to build my online community from 12,000 followers to more than 300,000 on just one platform. We then went to TikTok, on YouTube, Facebook. So just storytelling and connecting with people, really getting them into the journey like they're participating in it. And many, many, many more lessons I learned for us on the road. But those are a few things that definitely stood out.
Yes, I mean, certainly we saw, you said something about if you're not being called crazy, you've not even started living yet, really. If you've not been called crazy, you haven't. And we're looking at you, and I was like, hey, God, just keeps your daughter safe. She has to make you home. She has to make you home. She has to make you home. Because
lots of prayer.
Lot of prayers went with you. And I think that's really the beauty of the Nigerian community, because see how we also showed up for Tunde as well for his, his fit as well. So you stopped at a couple of countries. I'm sure you saw the worst and you saw the best of Africa in a different light. I mean, you've been to African countries before this, but what was the difference between the Africa you saw on those trips you were on, and the Africa you saw on this particular trip?
I think with this one, there was a lot more immersion in it. You know, it wasn't just a drive. It was a drive where maybe within 2 to 3 weeks. I was able to spend more time. It took 2 months and almost 2 months and a half, the whole journey. So there was definitely enough time to spend in these almost 13 African countries. And it was just amazing. Getting to learn the culture, getting to immerse myself in it, getting to, like you said, it had two sides of the coin. There was this beauty that Africa as a continent, you know, had. For example, in Yamoussoukro, seeing one of the largest church, seeing the largest church in the world, pardon me. And people don't talk about it or speak about it so much in Ivory Coast. And then you also see the other side of, like, for example, the border issue that I faced. And I kept highlighting it as being a thing. You know, I traveled through Europe and it was almost like borderless. But once I got to Africa, or West Africa specifically, it was just back to back in terms of it's so different from when I was flying from one place to the other. Land border is not for the weak. There was so many challenges and reformation that needs to happen in our borders for just easier flow of tourism and trade as well. It's just, it's not conducive right now. So, you know, it was so many experiences in terms of people realizing that we are more similar than different, and seeing overlap of culture, you know, food, music, all of that good stuff. But also seeing, you know, the not so good side of things, which I detailed as much as I could on my social media platform.
So I didn't know about the church, but I didn't know about that church. And that's, I mean,
most people don't. Most people don't. And that's why it's so important that we tell our story as Africans in terms of, we can't be upset that the narrative out there is not positive. We are not actually adding to those narratives or changing them in a more positive light.
So, Pelumi, I mean, with your experience, it will not be far-fetched, and it is obviously well-deserved if you're made Minister of Tourism, Culture, or something, right? And I pray that comes to be, if that's something you would gladly take on. You know, but now we're talking about border issues, right? We're talking about border issues. So if you were put in that position, I mean, what are 2-3 things you would do to, what you will implement, policies you would implement to take care of that?
So the first thing I would definitely do, and I would love to be such in a power position, because I already kind of do kind of just showcase Africa, or even anywhere I go to. But in terms of the border, the main issue is, number one, there's no level of accountability. Who are these people accountable? Who can I report you to? Once you feel like you have no one in control of you, you step out of line. You know that no one can hold you accountable. You know, use the power of social media, because some of these officers straightened up once they saw a camera. I'm like, oh, so you're scared of the camera. You know what you're doing is wrong. So really speaking to, for example, content creators that use these tools frequently and everyday travelers. So something I didn't do, for example, was I did not want special treatment. So I didn't reach out to my embassies, for example, because this is the issue. The people that are in charge of policies already have this entitlement. They go with their official vehicle, they get cleared without facing any issues. So for them, the borders are fine when they're not. So really seeing the everyday man's kind of like, you know, experience, hearing from them, and really making sure that we put things in place, which is that, you know, if you have your full documentation or anything like that, someone is asking for a bribe, this number you can call and make a report straight away. You know, really tangible thing there that is present. And knowing that, you know, if it does, rotating the officers, again, having these people there for long duration of time just makes them stale, and they just feel like, again, they have nobody they're accountable to. So rotating them frequently, they don't settle up or have bases there, and they're able to have new eyes. And please don't get me wrong, they were not all bad people. They were just bad apples, which I feel will be picked out easily if there's more of this check within the borders.
Oh, nice. So we see that you're prepared for that position. Heaven.
Oh, yes.
Heaven, we are calling for the position. We're calling for the position. So you've met a lot of women, old, young, who are enamored by what you did, rightfully so. What are some of the questions? What are some of the questions that you've had thrown at you by these women, you know, coming from what you've done? Like, you know, I mean, they might have had issues that they are letting you know about. But what are some of the prevalent things they've talked to you about ever since this feat that you have achieved, the women especially?
You know, the one that just popped to my sheet is how. It's almost like there's this, you know, again, this is why representation matters. This is why representation really, really does matter, because it's as if they've never even fathomed that they could do such a thing.
Yes.
That, you know, they could step out of these conventional roles that the society puts us in on a constant basis.
Yes.
They constantly feel like, you know, there's this, you know, motherhood, marriage, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And once you step out of that, it's almost a taboo.
Yeah.
So when they see someone that is not necessarily doing the conventional, the question really is, how do I live an unconventional life?
Yeah.
How do I chase my goal without feeling like a failure or failing the society as a whole? How do you do it? You know, affordability, finances, which has been a big thing. How do you, you know, really pursue your goal when you sound like a crazy person to everybody that you love around you? So these are the constant questions, you know, and for the younger generation. So I love that you really highlighted it. This journey went from, you know, 8, 10 years old asking their mom, where's Pelumi Nubi right now? And I love the fact they use my full name. It's like, where's Pelumi Nubi? So you know exactly that they're following this story and they're inspired to go on their own adventure. And you get 65 years old women in my DMs, one lady comment the other day, like, I want to restart my life because of this journey you've gone on. Like, I want to do something incredible or remarkable like you have. And I'm just like, just go for it. Just do it, because life is short.
Yeah.
And honestly, at the end of my life, I just want to have less could have, should have, would have, you know, less regret, and know that I lived it as fully as I could.
As you could. You, Pelumi, you're inspiring me here too. So, so I mean, final question.
That's such a warm comment. Thank you.
You know, you're welcome. So, but like final comments, so I can leave you to do, you know, your other business. Pan-Africanism is a big talk on the scene now, rightfully so. It's time for us to congregate, you know, and the question, I mean, when talks are going on about Pan-Africanism, it's always almost like, you know, we leave the West out of it. We're like, we don't want the West part of it. The West has done enough damage. But you come from two of this. You come from both cultures, you know, being that you're in London right now, you grew up there. So is there, what would you say, and you travel the world, what would you say the right way to go about Pan-Africanism is?
Is there a right way? You know?
Well, I mean,
that's more of it. Is there a right way? But I think, for example, people that do feel like, you know, it should be handled by our people, I think there's definitely lots of improvement that needs to be done. And it takes one step at a time. I feel like, you know, change has happened over the years, but more is to come. You know, if you were taking something as small as ECOWAS, it's not functional. You know, we need to break it down and make it a lot more functional. Actually asking the right people, holding the right people accountable, but more importantly, coming together. The fact that we are so separated is crazy. Like, why am I finding it? Why is a white man able to move through my continent easier than I am? It's just crazy, you know? So there's definitely need for change in terms of how we perceive each other within the African continent and the freedom that we are allowed to, you know, how do we see each other? Is it this constant hate? Or is there actually unity that will ever be formed? So those are the conversations. And yes, I don't think the West needs to per se be involved in it. But it's definitely needs to, again, move past conversation to actionable step. What exactly are we putting in place to make sure that we improve and not just keep talking and talking and talking?
Thank you so much, Pelumi. Thank you so much. Thank you for existing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for going ahead and doing. You know, and just what you said, we have to have this commitment to live a life with little or no should haves, could haves, you know, whatever. And that's what I'm taking home today. So I'm going home and I'm going to go and write a list of things I would love to do, considering that I am not leaving this earth very soon. So I have many years, you know.
Amen to that.
Thank you so much, Pelumi. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day going forward. We had Pelumi in the studio with us. We are so grateful that she took out the time to be here, and we learned a lot from her. For the young person, for the old person, there were a lot of lessons to learn today. And we are praying, fingers crossed, that she's made minister in some way of culture, tourism, because she's one person that has the right. She has a resume. So let's pray together to make that happen, just as we pray together to make her trip from London to Lagos very safe. Okay. We'll be joining John and Helen in the studio. I remain Chizoba Mofebu. This is Culture Conversations. Stay tuned.
What Where's an extension cable? There's an extension something there.
Well, go on.
Okay. That was a brilliant one and so very inspiring. Pelumi, thank you so much. And Chizoba, thank you. John has specially requested that we kick off the conversation on this segment, the very last segment for the day, conversation on breastfeeding. And so I kindly ask that you do us that favor, John.
Yes, I will, certainly. So it's time to meet Dr. Kolajo Buluwatiwi, a general healthcare practitioner with a passion to avail every member of society and the family the right to good health. Our attention today is the mother and child, and breastfeeding is at the center. So welcome to the program, Doctor.
Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. Let's go straight to it. Now, the basics of breastfeeding. Why is breastfeeding so important, and how does it benefit both the mother and the father, and the baby? First of all, we'll go to the father later.
Thank you for having me on the program. So breastfeeding, as part of nurturing of
the baby,
its history dates back to as old as man also.
Yes.
So it's not. When we try to describe the importance, we have to also look at the history. Where did man learn about breastfeeding? Yes, so that's where I think we should start the conversation about the importance. So historically, mother and child bonding has been noted that it all began from the first from giving birth and the first contact with the baby. Okay. So the baby comes out, and the first thing after the placenta is severed and separated, so it's brought to the mother and begins to suck. So that's actually the foundation.
Very significant, yes. Because we can't go deeper into the history part of it, but that's very key. That first contact, that first link, you know.
After the baby comes out, the first contact is with the mother's
the giving of me kind of mother, you know, following the fact that the baby has been in the womb for 9 months or more or less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very significant. John? So what do you think that breastfeeding, is becoming less common today? Do you agree with us that it's becoming less common? What factors do you think are influencing this trend?
From your experience, really.
From my little experience, I'm a young practitioner. I'm a young doctor. So from my little experience, conversation with both new and older mothers, you begin to see from conversation that they tend to point out very few, but the major on it, career.
Okay.
The major on career, the major on lack of support at home, the major on even lack of support from their spouse, which I think, in my own opinion, is also one of the foundations to helping them breastfeed.
Yeah.
Another thing is also psychology, and it's one of the overlooked aspects of the whole thing. It's not easy for a woman after she goes through labor, the pain of labor. Now you have cesarean section, that's the surgical aspects to delivering. She goes through that, and she has to pause her life to cater for her child. So
that's a psychological part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, like you said, often downplayed.
It's downplayed.
And most times it's just the mother who bears all of this.
Yeah.
Well, the most of it.
Yeah, and a lot of times we just take it for granted that the mother, after having seen the baby, is excited. So everything else that comes with it, and breastfeeding also sometimes is not as pleasurable as it is. If there are any illnesses or anything, it's painful and all that.
Yeah.
So yes, the psychological aspect I can understand.
Yeah.
Now let's shoot further. There is a lot of talk at the moment about alternatives, like the formula kind of feeding and all of that. how would you describe that? Does it come close to the breastfeeding, the milk that comes from the breast? Let me use that.
The simple answer to that is no.
Why?
No.
Why?
By the law of nature, let me put it that way. Law of nature. There's nothing that is made to resemble what nature has made that can be
like it.
So
if it's not it,
if it's not it, it's not it.
Well, if it's not it, it cannot replace
it
completely.
Yeah.
Okay. So what circumstances, for example, would you advise, for formula? What would be the scenario?
So there are what we call contraindications to breastfeeding, and those are things that the physicians would have seen from both the mother's side and from the baby. So it's not just the baby.
Okay.
So we look at both the mother and the baby. So there are conditions, and they are one classed into temporary and permanent causes why you would say, okay, let this woman not breastfeed, or let her not breastfeed for now. Let's consider formula for now, or let's consider formula throughout.
Okay,
so different things.
I see. All right, that's good.
All right, now let's even look at what women are going through. Let's talk reality of life. So in today's busy world, many working mothers struggle to balance breastfeeding with their careers. What advice would you give? And I know what I'm waiting to hear. So what advice would you give?
So the advice I would give, and I think I've learned, this is not only my advice, it's an advice that I picked from my own teachers.
Okay.
They usually tell the mothers, do your best. Do your best for your child.
Yes.
You need to consider that career is important. Yes, but is it as important as your own child? I remember Professor Yakubu back in school. He says it in Hausa. He says it in Hausa. Consider. Also, Ashtik Professor, you call her our mama.
Okay, so you have to look at the fact that the baby is more important.
So the baby
most important.
Most important. But there's a place for your career too.
Yes.
So you must learn to balance it.
There's the balance.
There's the work.
But you have to learn to balance it. And I really would say the reason why we're having this imbalance to it is because I feel the older mothers have not passed or are not passing how their own experience, how they did it to the younger ones. So the younger ones don't have like a blueprint of, okay, this is what I learned. So this is something I can use for my own self too.
So we're looking at support, support at different levels, support from the husband, support from other family members, support from even the corporate organizations, for us to be able to ensure that we have those structures, in place to help the mother, perform these duties as they should.
Yeah, seamlessly.
Seamlessly, because we're almost, my eyes are on the clock.
Your eyes are on the clock. And I'm actually getting drawn into this conversation. Well,
last question?
Yeah, I mean, let's even look briefly, at the societal pressures, other societal pressures that might influence mothers' decision either to breastfeed or not. Would you, how can we create more supportive environments for breastfeeding mothers?
It all comes down to, one, the mother herself. Because one, she has to make up her mind that, okay, I'm going to do my best for my own child. It also comes down to also the family members, the husband,
yes,
person.
Yeah.
He also has to ensure that he supports his wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Support your wife. Yes, this is something we cannot overemphasize.
Yeah.
We can't overemphasize it. The husband should come in for the wife. The family members also, when they see the husband coming in, they would also follow suit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the listen.
And then the employers too, of course.
And the employers should
create an environment.
Policies, environment and all. If those things are set in place, if those things are set in place, I don't think we'll be having
any challenge
at all.
Okay, this is a topic that it's very, very interesting because we're talking about life and the health of the mother and the baby at the same time. Because there are also some complications that come from the mother after giving birth if she's not breastfeeding. You know, those issues are there. And the child who does not is not well breastfed, also the complications, there's some also complications there. So it's a conversation that we must follow up. We haven't done enough. We
haven't explored.
We haven't explored.
Like we haven't talked about fathers and breastfeeding.
Yes. So we'll move that to the part 2 eventually. At some point, because our time is totally out, John.
It means that Dr. Buluwatiwi,
we have to find another time.
Still was one visit.
Yes, one more visit. Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for your time. That was a lot on the advantages of breastfeeding, as against all the reasons not to breastfeed our children. I mean, the message was very clear there.
Yes,
so, take note, mothers and fathers too.
Yeah, and fathers too. Very quickly, John, let's have your nugget in 1 minute, John.
Yes.
You know, and today you're talking about the active 2 parts, your meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my nugget today is this, and like you said, in 1 minute, now reduced to 30 seconds, yes?
Okay.
Okay, so in every conversation, there are 2 essential parts, what is said and what is heard. So as leaders, it's easy for us to focus on what we say, you know, the words that we use and all of that, right? But the most important thing is, are we connecting?
Okay.
Are we connecting with the audience? Because they can hear you, but what they interpret or what they interpret from what you say is different. Okay. So that connection, that communication is very, very important. So there are 2 aspects to what we're talking about. When you speak, what is heard, what is said, and what is heard.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. Nugget. All right. And I just got that message is effective communication.
Yeah, that's
it's 2 ways. You know, you couldn't have said communication has been effective if you're the only one just hearing yourself and speaking.
Yeah.
There must be corresponding.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got it.
You
got it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, guys. That's the size of our conversation today on the program. And John just rounded it up for us, you know, in something that I'll call a master class. So my final words, if you nurture your mind, your body, and your spirit, your time will expand and you will gain a new perspective that will allow you to accomplish a lot more. In this season, especially of hardship and intense trial, please guard your heart jealously. Fill it to an overflowing with only good thoughts and be intentional about it.
That's
how about that?
That's
and I love you. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again, same time next week.
And I'm John Sanaya. I'm out. Thank you.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between
we had to rush you because
Good day and welcome to your favorite sport program on TV Plus Sport. We've been receiving so much comment as regards to the program, and it's been a beautiful moment reading some of your comments. And if you want to be part of the show, you can join us on all our social media platforms to be part of this wonderful show. If you are joining us for the first time, we have been watched in over 40 countries in Africa. And my name is Mudashir Shitu. I'll be your anchor in the next few minutes while we look at one of the most pressing sport stories in Nigeria before we go to one that the world is talking about, that's talking about boxing. But first of all, let's look at the National Youth Games, the 2024 National Youth Games that just ended yesterday. There's so much to talk about this. Joining me to analyze and dissect this wonderful program, our wonderful sport administrator. Online joining me is Dr. Martin Morgan, a sport administrator in several countries, and he has done so well for himself. It's good to have you, Dr. Martin Morgan.
Yeah, Muda, once again, it's nice being together for this moment.
In the studio with me is Professor Edwin Wanyanwu, who we know that his love for youth and sport has brought him a wide acclaimed knowledge in Nigeria. Professor Rada, it's good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Mudashir.
So this gentleman will be talking and dissecting something important as regards to the National Youth Games. And the game, we know what is in the 8th edition, just ended in Asaba at the famous Stephen Keshi Stadium with Delta State retaining it for the second time. They've won back-to-back, retaining that. The game started in Abuja 8 years ago, and we had it in Ilorin, the University of Ilorin, where the several editions, the second edition, third edition, before we have Delta hosting it. But it's Delta on top of the log table after a week of sportsmanship between Nigerian youth. I will start with you, Dr. Martin Morgan, and it's something I know you specialize in. Doctor, what can you say about the just concluded National Youth Games that ended yesterday?
Well, once again, and hi to the prof there. Once again, we saw the same thing we saw last year, some years back. We saw the hosting state coming top, and that tells you that even the position has not drastically changed. You see Delta, Lagos, and Edo. And so invariably what that tells you is telling you that yes, we still have those talents. Year in, year out, we still have the talent. We have the youth to nurture, like we said. But the question I keep on asking, what is the data? How are we keeping? How are we following their progress in life in terms of their schooling and everything? So these are the questions. It's not only coming to the Jamboree Park. We have all the youth coming around. There's apart from some of the states, one state we have only one person, Gombe State, have one young girl coming in. So what do we do with those data? Have you been able to nurture them according to the paper, what we have on the paper? That is the question. I don't have any problem. But the organization also, I am very happy that this time around there's no issue of medal padding. And I hope that the table we had really reflected the true position of, even though they were talking about some of the ages, how they have to reduce the age and how to do, but all those things are polemic stuff for me. Don't really matter. The matter is that the talents are there. How do we nurture them and prepare them and follow their lifestyle and see how their programs are going? What programs do you have for them?
Before I come into the with Professor Enwayahu, but what do you think is still getting the benefit it should get? I mean, the National Youth Games, do you think it's serving the purpose that it should serve? The National Youth Games since the 8th edition, do you think it's still giving us what is expected for and the reason why it was created?
Well, on paper, it is expected that the expectations are going to be the same, but the implementations, I don't think we are really getting what we expect to get in terms of implementation. But if you are talking about the paperwork and the expectations, we have theoretically put them down. But what is this survey? Because like I told you the last time, that the last Paris Olympics, almost 300 medals were won by students from various universities in the world, 26 countries. So how many of us, or how many of our kids that all transited from that program or since the inception got to that point? So that's why I'm telling you that theoretically it's okay, but in terms of implementation.
Okay. Let's come to the studio where we have Professor Iwanyanwu. You read what Dr. Martin just said as regards to the National Youth Games. The National Youth Games is one that was created to give the country its future talents by making sure we catch them young. You have been an advocate of the youth with several sports programs going on. Tell us, do you think the National Youth Games is achieving its purpose and aim why it was created?
Honestly, Mudashitu, just like what Dr. Martin said, he raised many issues that are very, very important that the nation really need to look at. For some time now, it looks more like it's a paper thing we are doing, more of a theoretical thing we are seeing. But notwithstanding, we can't, relegate the efforts of the organizers. But what we are praying is that we should really enhance the program, the competition, extend it where we can say we have been able to achieve the aim and objective of this festival, this game, you know. So one of the things is to enhance the sports that we know generally, and then also develop the youth. Also area of talent identification. You can see having this talent, and at the end of the day, or the end of the competition, those that we have seen that they are exceptionally sound or they are very good, we are not able to carry them from that moment. We talk about data, taking their data. There should be a follow-up. But after the game, we just don't hear their name again, and that is the end of it. And later, we still be looking for athletes who will represent our country at the international level. So it's a big issue, and that is why a lot of people are calling for serious implementation of everything that is necessary to put in place. Okay. Now, we should also look at the community engagement. You know, we can't just, every year we come out with these National Youth Games without proper engagement from the grassroots, because it's from the grassroots we get to this stage. So there are so many issues that I think we need to look at. We have talked about age cheat and the rest of them. We are not, now we should look carefully in the area of age category, you see, making sure that everything is organized and the right ages, everyone that is in the right age supposed to be with his age. So we should look at that so that we can make mockery of the idea that have been put in place regarding this. Another area I would like to chip in as well is looking at the organization proper, the infrastructure in place, and also the awareness of this game, because the awareness is not as loud as it's supposed to be. I can tell you we are over 200 million people in this country, but you see the information is also limited to a lot of people. Talking about sponsorship for this program is also an issue. So we should take it beyond what it's supposed to be.
Okay. If you are just joining us, we'll be looking at the just concluded National Games, and we are trying as much as possible to see whether it sets up the purpose. Joining me online, if you are just joining the program, is Dr. Martin Morgan. And I'm going to ask this question. In the studio with me is Professor Iwanyanwu. Dr. Martin Morgan, let me come to you on this. There's been so much about age cheats when it comes to the National Youth Games. There's been so much about not using the necessary age about qualifying to participate. Some said it should be under 15. As expected, the one just concluded was under 15. That's every youth from 15 are only eligible to it. We've been hearing stories about going to be 17 because the Delta State government and the governor himself said that it should be we should allow the youth game should be from under 17. Regardless to all these, there's still so much issue of age cheats. I've been part of the youth games 4 times in the Law University of Ilorin. How can we curb this issue of age cheats? And why is it at a win at all cost syndrome? you see with some of our coaches and officials. Why don't you understand that at this stage, it is not about winning the medals, perhaps for some, but it's about enhancing talent to promote the future of Nigerian sport. Tell us your opinion on that.
Well, strictly, I think Muda and Prof, we can issue that the issue of age cheat is a macro problem. Macro problem in the sense that it cut across all the fabric we are seeing, and which is that devoid about data. If you don't have a synchronized data analysis or system, whereby a child who is born in Karu Namoda and the one that is born in Ahoda, River State, should have the same date, should have the same date and the same period, and say that the data is connected somewhere, you should be able to see that Usman that is born in Karu Namoda and another person that is born in, Wakari that is born in Port Harcourt should be able to understand that, yes, they have the same age. But when they come at the same time, you start having different things because there's no data. And that is a macro issue. It's not that, it's because of that. And at the same time, we are very much interested in promoting games. We promote, we don't prepare, in the sense that even the coaches and the officials, they even assist. If you ask somebody, he will tell you my real age is 25. But my football age is 19. You see that type of thing which have been heard by the officials. We saw it here in Nigeria, even happen in our national team. With due respect, even in the late 80s, we saw it in our under 23. Samson Siasi, I'm mentioning him, was implicated in that situation when they play in Russia. You remember that? So these are the issues that we see have a lot of them. We saw them even in our own under 17. We saw them, how somebody who is in under 17 playing in Dubai, he was now informed that the second wife just had the second baby. So how do you explain that? So these are the situations we find. So the age cheat is an issue that we need to change. Even the officials themselves, the age they are using to operate is not their ages. So these are what we are saying. So they translate that type of malfeasance to the players, and the athlete now come up, and your body tells you that no, at a particular age, you cannot do certain things. So this is what is affecting us. So it had to be a total overhauling of the system, and let us know that the adequate age, and we monitor the schools. Now you can see that some of the school certificates, they have pictures. Even with that age and the picture to determine that the particular age should be able to do that, it's not working. It's a macro situation that has eaten the fabric. And so we need to get it back and reduce it. Because some of them have 2 or 3 age declarations and no birth certificates. So how do we do it? Let every person come up with the birth certificate. Even in some areas, we don't even record. The data is not there. They will tell you I was born during the day that there was storm in the market. How do you explain that situation during storm in the market? That is why even the MRO scan that does not even pick us very well. It does not pick up most of the people to explain, because they check your left wrist and see that a particular one is not working. You can take two twins. You see that one is going and the other one does not go. So this is a problem. Well, so we have to now see at that even we, where they are picking the players from in the community, the prof talk about the community. Then that means even from the secondary school, the primary school, the headmaster or the game master should be able to go and decide, yes, this guy from my secondary school or my private college is at age 14, is in the actual age. So by the time we're able to bring that sensitization, we inform the people, then we should be able to answer, yeah, we are now correcting what has been done. We know, you and I know. Yeah. We see it. So that's the only thing we can do.
Yeah, Dr. Martin, well said, but I want to ask Mr. Professor Erinwayawu, that what do you think should be done to solve this issue? He has highlighted the problem, and it's a major problem. And the problem, according to him, according to Dr. Martin Morgan, goes beyond just the national youth games. It cut across the sports sector in the country, and it needs overhauling. If you are asked today to solve this problem of age cheat, because Daniel Igali, who is the president of Nigerian Wrestling Federation, in an interview of recently, said that there's age cheating, and he is also part of the system. So what do you, and that's to say that it's the acknowledgement. We've acknowledged that this is always a problem. Every year in and out, there's a problem of this magnitude. Here you are now, you've got so much to do with youth sport administration. What do you think? What advice will you tell the sport ministry or those in charge of the youth games to take ahead of the next national youth games?
Yeah, very important. You see, data collection is very important from the school and also from the grassroots. The moment we're able to have these data on ground and checking the history of these athletes, you know, starting from when they are as young as, you know, so the moment we have that, you know, it will be hard, just like what Dr. Martin said. So it's very easy to locate their profile, knowing that, okay, Adamu is so age, it cannot be changed, it's there. And already we have the information starting from where they are coming from. So once we have that, we can be able to determine to say, okay, yes, we have this history, this person have been there before, you know, with so age, it cannot be changed. Because what usually happens is that most times, if maybe someone is 15 years and he participated sometime, 15 years, which is true, and then you later again after 2 years.
There's also an issue, let me explain. There's also an issue of NNN. Don't you think NNN that seems compulsory for every student in the country, secondary school, primary school, should be a process of getting data collection? There should be a synergy.
Yes, I'm glad that so many schools have been doing that. Apart from that, even in Lagos State here, I can tell you for free that the Lagos State Sports Commission, in fact, there is a lot they are doing with data now, collecting data from different schools and also making sure that the sports you are participating in, if it is a particular sport, they have the history. If you are beating a particular thing or you are exceptional in this, they have every data. And they are also issuing forms to schools. And then there is this collection of information directly from school, which include the NIM we are talking about. So it's very easy to verify some of this information now. But what we should know is that, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. So gradually, what the Lagos State Commission, Sports Commission is doing is really fantastic, because now they are gradually hit, because so many issues, like so many sports competitions where you see a lot of controversy, talking about age, you know, it has bring a lot of issue, and now they are gradually taking that step. So there is a lot we have to do. All these agencies that are in charge of data collection and the rest have to step up, and we should, just like what Dr. Martin said, you know, someone saying I was born when the markets there was an issue. That doesn't even make sense sometimes, you know, people coming up with such
cases like that.
No, that is the truth. He's right. You know, you see people, all you see is age declaration. You hardly see certificate, birth certificate, you know, coming from a hospital. That is well, I mean, that you can say this is an authentic birth certificate, you know.
There's so much to talk on this, but still on you, while we saw that, I will get Dr. Martin's feedback on this question. Why do you make the national games seems like a must-win syndrome? Is that how the national games should be designed? There shouldn't. It's about participation. It's about bringing the country together. It's also about picking the best of the best. The best of the best doesn't necessarily need to win at this age, so that they represent. But we've not seen in the national games since the 8th edition that started in Abuja, that any of them has not really given us that, not so much of them, have given us that national identity that's catch them young and are representing us. Few I can mention, maybe someone like Deborah Quickpen, thereabouts, as the case may be. But my question is the National Youth Games a must-win at all costs game?
It's not, and it's not supposed to be. The thing is that sometimes, you know, people are being carried by excitement. And others also think maybe it's something that they really need to win to be able to be known. You see, it's not supposed to be a do-or-die affair. It's not supposed to be something that we have to war over, you know. But it's quite unfortunate we have found ourselves. I would also like a situation whereby people are so excited, but not to the extent of trying to win by all means. If you can win by all means, in as much as whatever you are coming up with is legal and is acceptable, it's part of the rules of the competition, then it's good for me. But whereby you are trying to win by all means or trying to cause a lot of issue by all means through illegal ways and through like what we have just mentioned, HIT and the rest of them, then it doesn't really make sense.
Okay. Dr. Matimo, what's your opinion on that? Why do you make, because Delta won down 40 medals, Lagos State won down 20 medals. At the end of the day, when you ask for that boy in the next 2 years, is nowhere to be found. When you ask for that girl that gave us that medal, he or she may not be found. And coincidentally, if that girl or that boy is known in the next 2-3 years after this game, it's more of a result of the personal development or the parental support or guardian support. It's not more of the state government who claim the gold or the medal support. Why do we lose the vapor, the energy after the youth games? Why is there so much gap between the sports, the child that gave us the medal, and the sport commission or the sport council, as the case may be in different states?
Yeah, I think it's not very far-fetched. It's a very straightforward situation we see ourselves. One, the sports is being considered by various state governors or government who are in charge as a job for the boys. And then those administrators, with due respect to all of them, who are daring, look at the preparation of the game as a means of getting money for themselves, to do over invoicing and over hosting. And in that process of doing that, somebody needs to go and tell the governor, Oga, we have 200 athletes participating, and each athlete is going to cost us 10,000 to feed. And you and I know that you don't have 200 athletes. You have 100 athletes. So in that type of situation, even the feeding have been hosting. Then you now discover that it's just a way of the cartel to make money for themselves. So it becomes a routine. That is why they are not interested in following the step of the talent they have discovered in their various states. Like you said, they'll just go to the oblivion. We will not see them. Rather, we are now preparing again to see who is going to host the next. Like now, Delta State say is going to host for 5 editions because the concession. But for me, I'm faulting it. Faulting in the sense that if you are talking about infrastructural development, it shouldn't be only from Delta State. You can say, fine, let us have a sport policy whereby the rotation will go round on hosting. We are going to talk about security. But you discover that sport is a tool that can also be used to simmer down insecurity in the various states. If it now make compulsory that each state has to go by a rotation and host this competition, but at the same time also going to be more money for the boys. And more money for the boys, they are not interested on those that they are using as spawns. They use the athletes as spawns. So that is why they fizzle out. You don't hear about them. If you want to hear about them, maybe you hear him running from Oman or for Fiji Island somewhere, and somebody will now bring him back to the national team. So this is the problem.
Okay,
so
well said, Dr.
Martin. Disconnect is always there.
Yeah, you gave a response to a question I was about to ask, and that's talking about the sport minister saying that in the next 4 or 5 years, I think it's 4 years, Delta State will host the national games. And you've given us a very valid point that it does not accelerate the growth of sport infrastructure or the game of the sport. But there's also other opinion about states that are not ready. In the past, they've been looking for which state to host this national sport festival, also like the national games and national sport festival. But don't you think that the inability for other states to be ready might be the reason why Delta State, though it also has its pros and cons? Let me ask Professor Enwayahu, do you think it's a good reason for a state to just host a sport festival, national youth games, for 4 times in a row? What happened to Anambra? What happened to Oyo State? Some of the states don't have the facilities. Don't you think this can bring about the renovation, reconstruction, or newly built facilities in the state to enhance sport growth? What can you say about
that? Yes. First, I want to thank the Delta State government for trying to host it as many times as possible. But that is not truly encouraging, as we call it, national youth games. So it doesn't really portray that national unity for us. So, and again, it also doesn't encourage development of sports and also youth development as well. If you ask me, I think we really need to spread it across the country. Now, I know for sure that one of the problems is infrastructural development. But if state can be pushed and say, okay, we are hosting this thing next 2 years, next year, for instance, we are going to we want this National Youth Game to be hosted in Anambra or maybe Kano. You know, it will push the government to be able to put whatever they have on ground, to put it in shape against the sports. And that will help to develop, will help the state to develop whatever they have on ground for sports. Okay. Yeah, I feel sad enough, you know, I went to Ondo State last time. What the governor did, the previous governor, the late, you know, very nice swimming pool and the rest of them. But the management is so poor. So if we say, okay, this is coming to Ondo, I know, of course, the state government will immediately put it in shape. So these are the kind of things, you know, not just leaving it at a place, you know. Yeah.
Not considering other.
Exactly. So let's spread it. Let's spread it and see how others can also use that to develop.
Okay. Okay, you want to say something? Yeah, I can hear you, Dr. Martin.
Yes. You see, like, if you say some states don't have the facility, 2 states who are nearby, very close, Anambra, Enugu, can join. Bayelsa Rivers can join. Akwa Ibom Cross River can join and do that and say, let us host and see. So this is how it is. It's not necessarily that. And government is a continuum. If that is on paper, irrespective of which government comes in, they will know that a particular period is going to be my turn to host.
Yeah.
They stay 8 years. So what are we talking about? If you can go around that, the 2 states come together and join. So what stops it? That will be another way out to improve some of this facility and promote even friendship amongst the states. Okay. This is another way we can do that. Unlike one state just having it. No. For me, it's a monopoly, and it's not helping. It's not helping us.
Okay, we had a clip of an interview with the DG of Lagos State Sports Commission. We are going to watch that, and I want Africans, Nigerians to listen carefully so that we can see how possible or how realistic. You share your own opinion, Dr. Martin Morgan, while Professor Enwanya will share his opinion on what the DG of Lagos State Sports Commission said after Lagos State came second at the National Games. Enjoy this. When we come back, we're going to pick our topic on this statement.
Get a run for their money, and I have told everyone that cares to listen that the future of sports, particularly that is connected to talent development, grassroots sport development, which is actually the focus of National Youth Games, lies with Lagos State. So Lagos State has proven with this, remarkable outing in these National Youth Games that we are actually the set of people to watch out for in the future of National Youth Games. Coming with the number of gold medals, particularly I have to make emphasis around the way we have conveniently and confidently swept all the gold medals in boxing. A lot of people, and we also trounced data, I must say that, in basketball. So we are now looking at different areas of our competitive advantage in sports. And I am sure that in the coming years, Lagos State, we come first. Special program that is called Stars in Lagos State, sport talent that are redefining success. We see these young people as the future of sports in Lagos State. So we are looking at that from the angle of, sports development around education, what they are doing in school and what the future lies in terms of, you know, some of them we may want to look at entrepreneurship, how we can connect entrepreneurship with sports. And these are some of the things Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, you know, is doing in terms of deployment of resources to sports to ensure sports talent identification and retention. And we have equally improved in terms of welfare that is provided for these people, and also exchanging handshake with private sector, because we know that government cannot do it alone. So we are rebuilding that trust, and they are actually coming forward. We have a lot of big names now in the corporate world in Lagos State who are actually dedicated to supporting grassroots sport development. So we look into the areas of scholarship, opportunity businesses, and crafts, you know, in sports in general. Those are some of the areas that we want to do to ensure that we retain our talent. And gone are the days where our stars, some states will be coming to poach our stars. We are giving the best of incentives now through the support of Mr. Governor. So we want to come bigger in the coming tournament.
It's very challenging because we had last year, there were issues that we did not want to reoccur. So we need to do a lot to clean those up. And nearly everybody testified that things improved tremendously, like transportation, accommodation, feeding improved, and the technical conduct of the game was also very good. People testified to that. We had a stakeholder meeting of all the states, and they all spoke to this. So I'm happy that all the effort we put in.
Interesting moment that in Asaba at Mr. Vikeshi Stadium, where just ended the 8th edition of the National Youth Games. And if you're just joining us, we'll be looking at the National Youth Games. In the studio with me is Professor Eruwayahu. Online has been with the program, who has been giving his perfect opinion on the state of the National Youth Games, is Dr. Martin Morgan. So I will start with Dr. Martin Morgan. What can you dissect from the statement of the DG, Lagos State Sports Commission?
You know, Lagos is always the center of excellence, center of planning, the center of what the best we can get in terms of sport, a coup for sure. What I'm telling you that, what the DG said, you can see the plan. He has seen about collaboration with the private sector. He has seen how to enhance the future of these players or these athletes, how they will be able to go. And those who cannot continue with education, are they going to sport? Then also bring in the business and with the economic aspect. That is the business of sport. If you can't go there, what will you do to benefit yourself in terms of it, to sustain yourself, so that you can continue with the speed of it? So some of these elaborate programs, if implemented truly on the way they are stated in paper, is going to be one of the best. What stop other states from copying, even translating it at the national level? So these are the equations. Not that these things don't exist. They exist. They exist. Like I can also listen to that DG. I can see how passionate he is about what they have and how happy they are, but preparing for the next one. So the preparation of the next youth sport tells you that, yeah, this is what we are going to come. So you cannot even poach. But at the national level, you say switch. But here you can't poach or switch, because they are going to give you the incentive. So these are those type of incentive that is lacking at the center. I see some of our Nigerian athletes switching nationality. So for me, for the youth, if they're able to contain that age cheat and see that this program are done seamlessly as being planned, it's going to be one of the best you can think of. I think kudos to the DG. And I listened to the veteran Mr. Chief Solomon Ogba. He has been in that circle for a very long time, so he understands what to do. In fact, they have blown out the encyclopedia of the athleticism in Nigeria because they have been there for long. So bringing, telling you about the improvement about the logistics and feeding. The last one we had challenges about logistics. We have challenges about feeding, even accommodation. But since we didn't hear any serious scandal this time around, I think we give them the kudos, we give them the pass mark. Okay. But the bottom line is, how do you nurture and manage the issue of age cheat?
Okay. Your own opinion on Dr. Lekan Fatudu's speech on this, on the National Games. What can you dissect from it?
Yeah, honestly speaking, I'm not surprised. Lagos, as we all know, have been doing excellently well. And the plans are there. They are doing so much to make sure that they are being represented at all times. What we are seeking for and asking is to see how other states can implement, similar things and see how things can really work for their state when it comes to sports and youth development. It's very important because so far, I can tell you, we have not seen much, from other states. So it looks more like we are having Delta so active, Lagos so active, Edo State as well. We really need to, boost whatever we have as a sports infrastructure and also look towards the youth. So, all they said is fantastic.
Okay, yes, away from National Youth Games, we'll go straight into boxing. Yes, tomorrow, we'll go straight into boxing. I will be looking at the IBF World Heavyweight Clash between Anthony Joshua and the man they call Daniel Dubois, who obviously they are both from UK. There's been so much about the two of them. I'm sure you'll be seeing some of the videos right now as we speak. Anthony Joshua is making efforts to become the third-time heavyweight champion if he defeats Daniel Dubois with this. Let's don't forget that Daniel got that title as a result of Usyk not fighting his mandatory fight. So the IBF decided to now give the next person after him in that order, which is Daniel Dubois. So with me, I'll be looking at what do you think will happen in this fight?
I have watched both fighters, they have made their comment. There's one thing I picked from Anthony Joshua. He said he's ready to fight, but whatever that is going to happen is the moment he enters the ring. So I quite expect him to do the necessary thing by beating Daniel. So it's not going to be an easy fight.
Definitely.
Don't forget, both of them, have similarities, when it comes to the qualities, the attitude in terms of fighting on the ring. So I expect Joshua to do a lot to be able to have the day, but it's not going to be an easy one for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor, it's going to be Wembley, and we know what Anthony Joshua did for Klitschko in Wembley. Tell us your own expert opinion of the match, and I'm sure this is another time to feel that sensation about boxing. This is going to be interesting, and I'm sure this is where a lot of people across the globe will be wanting to see, especially from the African angle. Tell us your own opinion and how excited are you? Because it seems a lot of boxing fans are excited that Anthony Joshua will be picking up a belt if he defeats Daniel Dubois.
Prof said that it's going to be a very balanced fight, likely. We may go for a long stretch, but when you are going to have 96,000 spectators, fans, at the Wembley Stadium, and this is going to be some of the best we can. We have the fight the last time we have a Klitschko with Antonio, you have about 97. But now we are going to have about 97,000 fans, about 96,000 fans who are coming to that Wembley Stadium to see how AJ, as it's popularly called, will be able to demolish Anthony Dubois, which is not going to be a very Herculean task. The AJ said this morning that he's ready to rock and roll. So when he says ready to rock and roll, that tells you that if you're able to do that, so you go to the history books, that the legendary greatest Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. So this is what we are trying to look at. Will it be a dream come true? Or will it be another disappointment back to back for AJ? Wembley will decide.
Yes, Wembley will decide. And definitely, Dr. Martin, that is going to be the size of our wonderful program today, because we want to give our viewers across the globe the opportunity to see the last press conference between Anthony Joshua and Tanner Dubois. I want to say a big thank you for being part of today's program, Dr. Martin Morgan. If you Google Dr. Martin Morgan, you definitely know so much about African sport. And I'm sure he's also a linguistic. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin Morgan. We'll now, hopefully you watch the game and we get much more to talk about after the game. Thank you very much.
Okay, merci, Buddha, merci, Professor Wanyu. Au revoir.
Yeah, au revoir. Let's we'll come back to the studio. Live here on my side is Professor Iwanyanwu. He's a sport agent, deals so much with football and youth talent, talking about him and now seeing the youth to proper channel the future of the sport. And he has been giving us his own expert opinion on the national games. He's also rooting for AJ. I'm sure you're also rooting for AJ.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we hope that AJ that have a connection with the African roots might take today. Thank you very much, Professor Iwanyanwu, for being part of today's program.
Thank you so much, Mudashitu. Thank you.
Yes, and to my esteemed viewers across the globe, it takes so much to know that over 5 million viewers are watching me, knowing that Plus TV Africa is in 33 countries in Africa, and I can imagine the viewers who are getting to be part of this. And I'm excited that I'm here telling you what you need to know in the world of sport. What I'll tell you today, enjoy the rest of the day. And don't forget, keep watching Plus Sport Africa. Enjoy this wonderful press conference and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the fighters. From London, England, 23 fights as a professional, 21 victories, 20 KOs. That's a 90% KO to victory ratio. He's the former WBA heavyweight world champion and the current reigning and defending IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Triple D, Daniel Dynamite Dubois. And his opponent, also from London, England, an Olympic gold medal champion, 31 fights as a professional, 28 victories, 25 of those 28 victories by KO, the two-time heavyweight champion of the world, AJ Anthony Joshua.
Cheers, mate. I'll take that, yeah.
Daniel, I want to come to you. You are the champion. And I want you to clear something up for us, Daniel. The rumors are circling. Where is your trainer, Don Charles? Is there an issue? Is it a case of Don is just sick and not here? What's happened? We haven't seen Don all week.
Listen, as long as they're in my corner on fight night, I'm all right.
But everything is okay?
Yeah, everything's good, you know.
Okay, that's good to hear. Let's move on from that and let's put that rumor to bed. All right, let's start with you, Daniel. Again, you are the current IBF heavyweight champion. You can see that the camera is here. This is a fight of extreme magnitude, right? They're saying this is the biggest British fight card we've ever seen. You headline it. How are you feeling? How's preparation gone?
Everything's gone well. Training camp's gone brilliant. I'm ready to fight. And let's go.
That you are, I know. You've wanted this fight against AJ for a while. Not just after the Hrgovic fight, before that. You've called him the king. You said you're the king slayer. Why have you wanted this fight against Anthony Joshua so badly?
Well, it's a resurrection story of my career, and, you know, I'm just on a roll right now, so, you know, I just want the biggest challenges and make a name for myself and create history.
You've had some ups and downs like every fighter, every top fighter. The ups recently have been very, very good. Jarrell Miller, Filip Hrgovic. When did it switch, Daniel? When did you realize that you are one of the best heavyweights in the world? When did it click that you can compete at the top table?
No, I've always known that. You know, I haven't got too much to say right now. I'm just ready to go on Saturdays. It's a great show, and I can't wait to go.
Yeah, but let's move on. I'm going to come back to you, Daniel, though you are going to answer a few more questions, hopefully. AJ, here we go again, right? You've been there, you've done it, you've seen it all, you've been in big events, you've been in big events since you turned pro. What's it like to be at another big event, Riyadh season at Wembley, home of what I think was your biggest success against Vladimir Klitschko?
What a blessing. Thanks for everyone coming today, but it's a blessing to be back again, to be able to perform, prove to myself, prove to my team that I've listened to the instructions in training camp, and we're ready to rock and roll. And I'm in supreme condition, both physically and also mentally. So yeah, it's good to be back, and I've been watching some of the old fights as well, just adding some fuel to the fire, ready to rumble, reminding myself what I can do and what I'm capable of.
We all know exactly what you can do. Daniel Dubois is a name that maybe many thought wouldn't have been your opponent a few months ago. What type of challenge do you expect Daniel Dubois to bring to you on Saturday night?
We'll find out. We've already got a couple hours left, so to everyone that's going to be there, you'll enjoy it, but we'll find out. I can't say I'm not Daniel. All I could do is focus on myself.
Indeed. Again, we will go back to the fighters, but I did want to speak to you first and foremost. Eddie, let's speak to your charge before we talk about Anthony Joshua. Let's talk about Riyadh season, Wembley edition. I spoke to yourself and Frank, and I was like, look, these Riyadh season events in Riyadh are fantastic. The one in LA was fantastic as well, but we need to get an event in London. We need to get an event to the National Stadium. We're only a couple of days away. What does it mean to have such a big event at Wembley?
Oh yeah, well, good evening everyone, and firstly thank you of course to the Crown Prince and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh for the vision really. I think everybody felt that Riyadh season would be in Riyadh, and it's been just under a year now since we began boxing in Riyadh season, and the change that we've seen in the sport already has been quite phenomenal. But we didn't expect to see events in Los Angeles, to see events in London, and this one's very special. You know, it's the record. It's 96,000, where I think at a time when British boxing needs a shot in the arm, and it's a shot in the arm that's been provided time and time again by this man to my right. You know, I know he's not a fan of plaudits, but you have to give him to him, because we're all very proud of the way he's carried himself since the Olympic gold medal to changing the sport in this country. Every fighter in the country today is benefited off the rise, the performances, and most importantly, the behaviour of Anthony Joshua. He's been a role model. He's inspired boxing from the top to the bottom level of the grassroots of the game. And personally on Saturday, I can't wait. You know, I think His Excellency is going to look around and see one of the greatest nights British boxing has ever seen. Just a phenomenal undercard. And as this fight draws closer, people start to realise what a great fight this is. Two dangerous British heavyweights fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship. And we look back to the nights of Klitschko and Povetkin. AJ's done it all before, but Saturday will be particularly special. Three-time World Heavyweight Champion, and a list that's so thin: Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis. And again, I know he's focusing on the performance, but legacy awaits on Saturday night for the most thrilling night. And thanks to all the promoters and broadcasters and Queensbury and team, Spencer Brown, Gold Star, of course the Matchroom team, 258. It's been a brilliant collaboration with Riyadh Season, who will break records on Saturday night and give us one of the great sporting moments. Proud of Anthony Joshua, a full believer in exactly where he's at. Never seen him so calm, never seen him so calculated, never seen him so confident. I believe with all my heart, three-time World Heavyweight Champion on Saturday, and do not miss it. It's going to be a very special night.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Frank, same question to yourself. Obviously, look, you've had Daniel Dubois since the beginning, very much like Eddie's had Anthony since the beginning. You've believed in your man, even with the ups and downs. What a moment for him on Saturday to headline, as we've been hearing, in front of 96,000 people.
It is. First of all, again, I'd like to thank His Excellency and the team who made this happen. This is an iconic moment for British boxing, there's no doubt about it. It's in an iconic building. The last few press conferences we've had, they've also been in iconic venues, but this is going to be something special. Two massive big punchers, two really good boxers, both of them on a roll, both of them winning fighters. They both had their ups and downs, not just Daniel, both of them had their ups and downs, and we are definitely going to see something special. And for me, there's nothing better than two Brits in the ring in a competitive fight in a big fight to get atmosphere, 96,000 people, sold out. It is going to be something special. And Daniel, I do believe, is going to show what he's all about. I believed in him from day one, and he's come through everything. Trials and tribulations, injuries, lots of different things happening behind the scenes, and he's now sitting here with his belt, and he's not letting it go. He's here to keep that belt, to confirm that he is the IBF champion against a very, very good fighter in AJ, who's been brilliant for British boxing, British sport, a man whose record's been impeccable as an amateur, got robbed as a amateur world champion, won the gold medal, two-time world champion, but then we've got the new kid on the block. And this new kid on the block can fight. He can punch. He's as big a puncher, if not a bigger puncher, than AJ. He can jab, same as AJ, and he's got mobility. He's fast, and he's a good finisher. So one thing's for sure, do not blink in this fight. Do not blink, because from the first bell to the last, it's going to be something extra special. I believe this heavyweight fight could be the Britain's Hagler-Hearns. That's how exciting it's going to be.
Daniel, I want to come back to you. I know you said no more questions, but I will try and force a few more questions from you, Daniel. You are now a champion, right? I mean, it's the dream from a kid to where you are now. You've got a new IBF belt in front of you. How's the confidence levels gone up since you've become champion?
The world title, I need to retain it and hold on to it. So, it's a great thing to have, but, I need to legitimize myself by winning this fight. So, I'm ready to go to war and ready for a fight.
Do you expect to knock out Anthony Joshua?
By any means necessary. Knockout, whatever way it comes.
Points, knockout, whatever way it comes, you're ready for it?
For sure.
AJ? Not been knocked out before?
Yeah.
A lot of people have said they can knock you out. Francis Ngannou mentioned it before when we did the face-off. Other fighters have said it as well. When you hear those words, it's almost just a case of, okay, you have to do what you need to do as well to get the victory?
Definitely. I showed Daniel and his whole team the respect they deserve during training camp, and that's going to put me in good stead on Saturday. So I'm tough. So is he. As Frank said, we've got all similarities, so may the best man win, really. And good luck to him, good luck to his team. Thank you to my team for their efforts as well. British boxing. One thing when I first started boxing, I said I want to bring the heavyweight division back alive in the UK, and I think we've done that. So well done to everyone here as well.
You guys are being very respectful now, which is nice to see. It is a gentleman's sport. I did the face-off with both of you about a month ago, and it wasn't very nice towards the end of that face-off. I had to move back, and everyone accused me of ducking away from it. I wasn't. But you accused them of being disrespectful then.
Yeah.
What happened for those that maybe didn't get that clip? Why was he disrespectful?
It wasn't disrespectful, it was just a phrase I used, but he said, "Let's go now." And I clicked for a minute. I said, "What does he mean by that?" And then he repeated it again. And I just feel like anyone in here, if I was...
Boxing, this is what happens. This is boxing. These things happen. So, we're fighting Saturday. Let's go.
So as I was saying, at the press conference, I just feel like you should never let anyone take an inch, because I'll end up taking a mile. You know what I mean, Dan? Sorry? That's it.
He said, never take an inch, never let anyone take an inch, because they'll take a mile.
Dan, I've spoken to you all week, and all week it's been smiles. I sense that the switch is now on, because you're a few days away from going to war with Anthony Joshua. Has that switch turned? Because look, we spoke yesterday and you're all smiling. We spoke the day before and it was all smiles as well. It's a very different Daniel Dubois now.
No, I've been preparing for this for months, weeks, and it's been spoken about from the start of my career. So as a pro, so here we are now. I'm ready for it. I feel good. I'm ready.
Okay, as I cleared up the Don Charles thing right at the beginning, I do want to clear up one more thing. And forgive me, both of you, for doing this, but I do need to clear it up because a lot of people want to know about it as well. This spar that happened several years ago. Now, you, Frank, said in a recent documentary that you heard about the spar and you signed him basically because of that spar as well. Can we clear that up now? Obviously, we know you guys are going to fight for the real thing on Saturday, but can we clear up this sparring story, these sparring rumours? AJ?
He cracked me with a great shot, and it's my chance to get him back on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
There you go,
Well, we sparred hundreds of rounds, didn't it?
You cracked him, Daniel. So you know you can hurt.
It's sparring, and now we're fighting. It's different, you know.
I think it's different.
Ready to go. Move on now. You can move on now.
Oh.
Move on.
Okay. No tables flying, anything. Let's just keep this one very, very peaceful. Daniel, how do you win? Tell me how it works.
I ain't predicting nothing. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to fight.
As expected. Anthony Joshua, how do you win on Saturday?
How do I win on Saturday? Can happen in a variety of ways, various ways, but I'm not dependent on punch power, you know. You know what, it takes a lot more than that to be a great fighter. A lot more than that to be a great fighter, so there's various ways I'll win. But I've got the fighter spirit, and that's how I'll go in there and break him down with my spirit. Eddie mentioned that you can be one of those, you know, rare fighters that are a three-time heavyweight world champion. Does that matter to you at this stage of your career, or is it big fights? Nah, I'll tell you, all the accolades and stuff come later, because I always say, it's crazy, you go back to your house on Sunday morning, have the same breakfast, put your clothes in the same laundry basket, nothing really changes, go to the same local gym. So for me, it's just, I just want to compete. I'm glad I've got some of the best challengers in front of me to compete with during my career. Brings the best out of me, so yeah, that's all it is really. I'm a competitive person, and I've got a competition that I need to attend to on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. Daniel, final one, don't get upset with me, I'm going to ask you one more. You're walking out in front of 96,000, you are a heavyweight world champion. A lot of people think you've got a good chance here. What's that feeling going to be like when you take that ring walk?
Like I've taken it many times before, just this time it's on the biggest stage, so you know, the energy is going to be higher. And AJ, you've done that walk before.
Many thanks for joining us on the news update on Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. Now, the Christian Association of Nigeria's president, Most Reverend Daniel Oko, has urged religious leaders to provide moral leadership support to help citizens navigate bad African leadership. This was emphasized at the African Lutheran Church Leadership Consultation in Abuja, where leaders from Africa and around the world discussed ways to build the body of Christ.
We must be truthful, we must be sincere, we must be genuine in finding ways to collaborate and to bring about the improvement of the well-being of the people of Africa. Africa is passing through a very difficult time at this time, and the church must stand up and give very strong moral leadership. And by this, I also mean that it is not just about criticizing those in authority, but finding ways to assist them in prayers and to speak to power in love.
The clergymen discussed the significance of leadership and how church leaders can utilize this concept to foster growth and development among their members.
The church must lead by example, by uniting. But the church must also be a source of hope. We must never give up, no matter the challenges we are facing. We can together address them, not only as churches, but together with the wider society, with government institutions and other religious bodies together we can transform even the most difficult circumstances for the sake of human dignity, justice, and peace.
The message at the end would be calling the leadership at all levels. It could be the government or church leadership or community leaders into focusing on what is right, and especially in respect to human dignity. And at the same time also that Africans must stand together, get themselves released from the past, only learn from the past, but at the same time try to create the better future.
Former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, and the present one, Senator George Akume, representing the President, participated in a conversation while urging Nigerians to allow the current administration time to address the inherited economic issues.
Yes, the church is there to give spiritual guidance, but it has also got some responsibility in managing the expectations of people and also directing people and also engaging government in the conversation for the catering of the welfare and the betterment of the people. Globally, there are challenges, and I believe that the church in Africa, particularly the Lutheran Church, which is a very traditional evangelical church, has a responsibility.
We are not yet promised, but we are going to do that because the problems have been clearly identified. Efforts to address these problems have been put in place through meaningful and purposeful policies.
Now, the House of Representatives Committee on Safety Standards and Regulation has urged health and environmental practitioners in the country to obtain new certification from the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON, to continue practicing in the country. The Caretaker Committee will organize a conference and annual general meeting to elect new executives, with a new ISPON executive elected on October 17 to the 19th this year. The National Assembly will only recognize certifications issued by new executives with a planned revalidation exercise.
So please help us to push this information far and wide so that they will know that there is no more fashion in ISPON. And ISPON is one, and we are pushing in that direction. This thing has actually given a lot of problems. Letters have been written to organizations. They are finding it difficult to say who do we support. So please help us to publish to the group, the populace, employers of labor and others, that ISPON has come to stay and that they should sponsor this program. Before now, when we are saying we are doing conference, you need to see the level of sponsorship. As we speak, there has not been any major sponsors because people are writing to demean the efficacy of what we are doing here. So we hope with this are coming out, it will equally give impetus to people who are thinking that it will not work, that it is already working.
It is imperative that every employer of labor in Nigeria takes note that after October 19th, a new executive will be elected to govern ISPON. From that day forward, all HSC practitioners in Nigeria must obtain the new ISPON certification to practice as stipulated by the ISPON Act 2014. The National Assembly will only recognize certifications issued by the new executives. A revalidation exercise would follow by the new executive to issue new certificates. We urge all stakeholders to cooperate with this process and support the unity of ISPON.
Nigerians are losing so many things for the institute now running with one voice. Foreigners coming here to do whatever they like, accidents in factories and all the rest of it. Now we have some people who are selfish, who want to say, oh, it's me that we run the art. ISPON Act provides for 2 years for each executive. After 2 years, you go for re-election. After that, your tenure expires. So how can somebody stay on a position for 4 years without quitting 6 years? And he wants to personify the position to himself, which is wrong. The chairman said there's law in this country and the law has to be obeyed, the law has to be followed. I have no group. I have decided to come here because I want Eastbourne to run the way the Act provides for it.
Well, moving on now, Action Aid Nigeria is urging the end of President Bola Tinubu's austerity policy since May 2024, which have led to daily struggles for families, increased fuel subsidies, and a floated naira, causing hunger and poverty. The group emphasized the need for during the launch tagged #End Austerity in Nigeria and #Reclaimed Public Services to ensure the country's survival.
This research basically went to the field to find out how are Nigerians coping with all of these measures, these new things, how are Nigerians coping, how is it affecting them, and we've seen that it is really, really bad, worse than we thought. So it's those evidence that are out there and what they are doing. And the research also further looked at how is it affecting various sectors, from the education, the health sector, the public sector generally, how are those things, those measures, how are they affecting the public sector. And the austerity measures that have been put in place, how is it further increasing poverty and inequality. And then finally, it's not just talking about our woes, but what do we do to respond and start reversing this. So there are clear suggestions, recommendations from individuals, from households, for women, for children, for businesses, small and medium scale businesses.
Now, Action Aid Nigeria's research reveals that the removal of fuel subsidies and the floating of the naira has led to the increased poverty, inequality, and social exclusion in the country, with Deputy Country Director Shuaiba Dankabo describing the situation as alarming.
Taking down to the aspect of fuel subsidy removal, as we know, it had multi-dimensional impact, spiral impact on the people. What it means is that many people, especially within the rural communities, can no longer afford to go to school because of transport costs. Many families can no longer provide or afford to pay transportation. A whole lot have resort to trekking. A whole lot have to abandon their businesses because of this the increasing cost. In terms of education, many families have decided who goes to school and who not goes to go to school.
Poverty wears the face of a woman, and in every situation, the woman is the one that takes responsibility. Her responsibility as a mother, her responsibility as in 3 points: reproductive, productive, and development role that she plays as a woman. So with this kind of policies that are made without the consultation of women, without their own input into what really works out for them, most of the services that are provided excludes them because it is not gender responsive.
And now to other parts of the continent, tropical rains have caused catastrophic floods in Central and West Africa, causing over 1,000 deaths and displacing hundreds of thousands. Now, these floods have worsened humanitarian crisis in Chad, Nigeria, Mali, and Niger, with over 4 million affected this year. Now, Africa is among the most vulnerable regions to extreme weather events, with the cost of adaptation estimated at $30 to $50 billion annually over the next decade. Now, up to 118 million Africans could be impacted by extreme weather by 2030. Governor Babagana Zulum has urgently appealed for international assistance, with the World Food Program providing food and U.S. aid providing over $3 million in humanitarian aid. Now, South African scientists have discovered an outbreak of rabies in seals, marking the first time the virus is spread among sea mammals. At least 24 Cape 4 seals were founded or euthanized along with the country's west and south coast. Rabies affects mammals and can be passed to people, but has never been recorded spreading among marine mammals. The only known case of rabies in a sea mammal was in a ringed seal in Norway's Svalbard Island in the early 1980s. The most likely possibility is that rabies was first passed onto seals by jackals in Namibia, where wolf-like animals hunt seal pups, on the coastline.
Really sure where the infection started. What we do know is that around 2.5 years ago, we picked up this increased aggression in seals around people particularly. We had a number of unprovoked seal attacks on people, and that increased dramatically, and we've been monitoring that closely, and we were trying to uncover what was the cause of that. And then in May this year, we tested 4 seals for rabies because of particular circumstances, and of those 4, 3 came back as positive for rabies.
Moving outside Africa, Israel has killed Hezbollah's elite unit commander Ibrahim Akil in a targeted strike in September, leaving 12 dead and dozens wounded. The conflict has shifted to Israel's northern border, with clashes resulting in hundreds in Lebanon, most fighters and dozens in Israel. Hezbollah recently faced an unprecedented attack blamed on Israel, killing 37 people and wounding thousands more. Now, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned Hezbollah of increasing cost. Now, international mediators are working to prevent the Gaza war from turning into a regional conflict. Now, Brazil's coffee growers are assessing the damage caused by a wildfire that destroyed their crops in recent days, as the country faces its worst drought in over 7 decades. The fire, which consumed 600 hectares, affected around 50 farms in Caconde, one of the state's largest coffee producers. Coffee producer Helio Moreira de Aranjo lost between 8,000 and 10,000 coffee trees. The ongoing drought is affecting the start of 2025-2026 season, while Vietnam, the world's second biggest coffee producer, is experiencing heat and drought. Potential supply shortages are driving up global coffee prices. Business news now. Nigeria's rail transportation system experienced a 53.14% increase in revenue to 1.69 billion naira in second quarter of 2024, with the Nigerian Railway Corporation generating 1.07 billion naira in revenue from passengers. Now, the number of passengers traveled by rail increased by 45.38% compared to 2023. The volume of goods transported via rail also increased, with 143,759 tons moved in the second quarter of this year. The movement of goods through pipelines also contributed to revenue generation, with 42.08 million collected in the second quarter compared to 12.81 in the same period of last year. Other revenue receipts reached 994.68 million in the second quarter of 2024. Sports news now. Nigerian-born UFC star Israel Adesanya has placed a $10,000 stake on two-time former unified world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua in his IBF heavyweight title fight against Daniel Dubois. Now, the highly anticipated all-British clash will see 96,000 fans create an electric atmosphere at the venue familiar to Joshua, but a new territory for Dubois. Now, this will be Dubois' first fight at England's National Stadium, adding to the pressure on him and his team, led by trainer Don Charles. The title fight is scheduled for September 21 at the Wembley Stadium, England, that is today. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, on X and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channels at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Vicky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is not the hope of this feature to blame anyone for the never-ending tension between police and the citizens. However, it is certain that there is always a tension with most people when they approach a police checkpoint. Many factors are responsible for this tension, including not knowing what to expect or do, seeing the police as the enemy, or even being guilty of an infraction. Many issues that go wrong at a police checkpoint can be linked to lack of proper communication and understanding on the side of the police force and also on the side of the citizen. Here are some tips listed by the police force about comporting yourself at a police checkpoint. Endeavor to slow down your vehicle. It shows that you're not reckless. It also douses suspicion that you're a criminal and may want to speed off. Turn down the volume of your car stereo. Courtesy demands this. Besides, you are able to hear each other better. This simple act will help you win the confidence of the security operative. Keep your hands visible to avoid unnecessary suspicion or fear by the officers that you're attempting to bring out a gun or other harmful objects to attack them. Turn on the inner light of your vehicle while approaching the cops if at night. It readily sends an unspoken message that you have nothing to hide.
That's the nature of your job, officer. Don't worry. That's the nature of your Everything job, will be fine.
Be friendly and cheerful. Commend the officers, especially when you see them working under very unfriendly weather conditions, such as rains and harsh harmattan conditions, excessive heat, cold, or sunshine. We know it's their job, but a little kind word from you will do a lot of good. Remember, when you smile at the mirror smiles back at you.
Officer will not come down. Let's see what you do. Don't mind this. We won't come down.
Endeavor to be polite when answering questions put to you by the officers. Don't dare or challenge an armed security man to a duel. Oftentimes, you hear people say things like, "Shoot me if you can." Note that this is a recipe for disaster. It is a very provocative and unnecessary call for war. So please, play safe, more so as you do not know the state of mind of the officer concerned. Also, don't go into a physical fight with an armed security officer. He may resort to the use of his weapon to defend himself. Avoid unnecessary arguments with armed security personnel. There are 1,001 ways to seek redress where you feel your rights have been infringed upon. Never try to touch an officer in an unfriendly manner. He may suspect you of trying to disarm him. If you're a regular traveler or road user, make sure you have the police emergency phone numbers of the route you operate. You never can tell when an emergency situation could arise and you need the police to come to your aid. Make sure you have all your relevant car papers and desist from actions or inactions that constitute either a criminal or traffic offense. Such infractions of the law provide a veritable grounds for possible charges and other forms of adversarial contact with the police or other law enforcement agencies, including unnecessary arguments. Don't give the impression that you're unhappy to see the officer on his beat or that he's wasting your time. But if you do have an emergency, politely inform the officer. Don't speed off while still being checked. Take note of the name tags, force or service numbers, personal description of weapon or patrol vehicle of the security officer, especially where the officers begin to conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. Seek an audience with the most senior officer at the checkpoint if things are not working out smoothly. Politely insist to be taken to the police station if your complaint is not properly addressed. Minding your mannerisms in public signals civility. Your behavior determines how others perceive you, and if you can leave a good impression, why not?
When it comes to that, it's about really making sure that you don't do something that will make people upset. So let me give you a typical example, public toilet. right? You want to walk into that washroom nice and clean. And at the same time, you want to leave it clean for someone else to use it like that. But what you find is that some people use it haphazardly. They don't care about who's coming in next. And of course, people are disgruntled by the way the place is dirty, not kept well. And of course, we have a problem there, health and hygiene, right? That's a public place. When you think about the airplane, for example, the same thing as well. You are on the plane and you have children, and the children are making a whole lot of noise. You're disturbing the elderly people and other people who are sharing the same space with you. So when you're on the plane, you have to be mindful of other people that are going to be using it. So even when you're sitting down, it's a confined space, right? So you don't want to disturb other people. You want to make sure that you have a smooth ride without upsetting anyone while you're in that public space. What about when you're at the cinema as well? You know, a cinema is a place where, and a library, where you have to keep quiet. You don't want someone to keep telling you, shh, shh. What does that mean? You're not supposed to use your phone when you're in such places, like a library, for instance. Then you're in the supermarket as well. A whole lot of things. And many places where people are, I won't say maybe ignorant of other people, right? They think they're in their home. So you're in a reception in a restaurant, or you're in the reception of a hotel. You're not going to put your feet on the desk, on the table, as if, and you're watching the TV as if you're in your sitting room, right? So people wouldn't like that. I've seen cases where some people are in they're in the not waiting room. There's a public place where you can sit down in a hotel, right? And some people have taken off their shoes, put their feet on the table, and their hand behind them, they're watching the news. And like, hey, this is not your sitting room. You don't do things like that. Then when you talk about dining environments, you're in a restaurant. I have literally seen people, and I've done videos on it as well, where they've given you a napkin. It's for your hands. Wipe your hands down because you're about to eat. Then guess what happens? You see them using the same napkin to wipe their face, to wipe their hair. I've seen them do this. I'm like, oh, this is not the bathroom. So it's really about perception and how you want people to see you when you're in a public place.
When in the public, it is important to be courteous and respectful of others. You might not always know the rules, but if you make a genuine effort to be considerate of others with the intent not to disturb them, the conscious effort would show.
For me, I would love to see an environment where when we see something that is not right, we correct. I've done that severally, and I'm brave enough to do that. And most times when I finish speaking to the person says sorry, because maybe at the time they were doing it, they didn't realize how bad it was and the consequences to another person. But most times you find that they are truly sorry because it just didn't come down to that.
The rules of behavior when we're in public vary from culture to culture.
If you've ever been to Singapore and you're in a public train or any public environment, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum. And they made it a law. And so now people are very conscious. Don't chew chewing gum, you get fined, you can be imprisoned. So they've made it part and parcel of their life.
However, culture is an ever-evolving phenomenon that changes as the needs of the people changes. We all have rights, but it has limitations where the exercise of your rights begins to infringe on the rights of others. Behaviors such as playing music or videos loudly on your phone in public, receiving calls loudly in public places, or even blowing horns arbitrarily can be seen as offensive. Here are some common etiquette to take note of in public. Offer up your seat. If you're in perfectly good health, offer your seat to anyone who is either in poor health or pregnant. Make commuting easier for those who need it. Let the waiter come to you. Never yell or wave your hand at a waiter while dining. Make their job easier by being patient or politely get their attention when they pass by. Know your audience. Be aware of who's around before engaging in hot topics. Respecting people's sensibilities is the proper way to behave. Make sure to tip. Tipping is essential for certain employees to make a decent income. Make sure to leave a tip as a token of your gratitude whenever possible. Even services you might not think of, like a haircut or dog grooming. Say excuse me. It's the polite thing to do when you bump into someone. Even if you're not really the one to blame, Why not just avoid conflict and brush off the situation? Use a coaster. Spilling isn't the only way to make a mess with your cold beverage. Say please and thank you, especially to those closest to you. Smile at the cashier, the bank teller, the security man, your co-worker, even if he or she doesn't smile back. Hold the door for the person behind you, and if someone holds the door for you, remember to say thank you. Step outside to answer your phone calls. Sometimes you have to take an important call. It is important to step outside to take your call because it's not fun to hear your conversation when we're trapped behind you in a line. Give people a pass. Cranky salesperson, nasty driver, you have no idea what's going on with that person right now. You don't have to reward ugly behavior with your own nastiness, which only perpetuates the cycle. Look at the person who's speaking to you. It is polite to listen to people who are talking to you and not just type away on your smartphone. Let someone go in front of you in line. Cough or sneeze into your elbow. Put your smartphone away during meals. Be on time. Ask before posting. Not everyone wants to be all over social media and you're not a reporter, so stop spreading the news. Keep the noise down at work. Silence the ringer on your phone. Speak quietly and turn the sound down on your dinging emails so it's not bugging everyone you work with. Wash your hands after using the bathroom. Park your shopping cart on the side of the aisle. Ask permission to use someone's first name. Clean up after yourself, at home, at work, at a friend's house. Ask before bringing a guest. Don't assume they're automatically invited no matter how well you know your host or hostess. Stay at home when you're sick. Reach out to people who are grieving. Don't pretend nothing happened. If you don't know what to do or say, you can simply say you're sorry. Let people get off the elevator first before you get on. The same rules apply to trains and buses. Silence your smartphone at the movies and stop crinkling that candy wrapper so loudly while you're at it. Help someone who's clearly struggling. The next time you see someone straining to reach something on the highest shelf at the grocery store, help him or her out. Skip controversial or nosy topics at parties. Politics, religion, or asking when they're getting pregnant or how much weight they lost. Those topics are sensitive and should be off the table. When you enter a room, greet everyone. Return calls. If someone takes the time to leave you a voicemail, take the time to call him or her back. Use an earphone or headphone in public while scrolling through social media.
If women do better, economies do better. Those are the words of the former head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde. According to the IMF, Africa's large economies like Ethiopia, Morocco, and Nigeria could add a whopping 35% to their economies by bringing more women into the workplace. But what happens when they do enter the workplace? Are they safe? Do they prosper? Do they do better? Think sexual harassment, fighting for promotion, for equal pay, for maternity leave, and the list goes on. If you're a woman, you've probably been there. Today, we want to look at the challenges women face while in the workplace. Hello, welcome to Our Voices. I'm Orion Itangishaka. Here with me is my co-host, Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick, Ayan Bior, and also joining us on our discussion today at the table is Kehinde Ajayi, lead of the World Bank's Gender Innovation Lab Youth Employment Research. Welcome, Kehinde.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank
to the
you.
show. Thank you.
And joining us via Skype from the Ugandan capital, Kampala, is Rita Akutwasa. She's the director of IST, Institute for Social Transformation, who I met while on travel in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Hi, Rita.
Hello, hi.
Thank you for being with us. I recently had a chance to travel to Kampala, Uganda, and talk with market women entrepreneurs in Kalere who are striving to grow their businesses beyond the market. They enlisted help from an NGO called IST, Institute for Social Transformation, to address some of their frustration about their work environment with the city of Kampala. Let's take a look.
We're here at Kalere Market, Kampala, Uganda, where many women in this market are asking for their conditions to change. The conditions of sexual harassment, sanitary situation, childcare situation, that they need change. They met with the authorities of the city of Kampala, as well as the UN Office of Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women in a town hall meeting and demanded for better work environment and conditions. Women are routinely sexually and physically assaulted while at work in the market. Josephine Mukisa describes the circumstances of sexual harassment against early morning small business entrepreneurs who have to be in the market as early as 4 a.m. to sell or trade with wholesale vendors from other markets.
The challenge we have with coming very early is that at times we come across hoodlums who often rape women. Others simply insult and sexually harass women with so much obscene words. They touch and grope you. Your customers could be right in front of you. They would still grope your breast and your butt aggressively. When you tell them to stop it, they get irritated and start shouting horrible insults at you, even in front of your own kids. It's so humiliating.
Betty Mwanzi's main concern is for women small business entrepreneurs like herself who do not have access to designated women-only bathrooms.
The toilet we have, it is mixed men and women. So as we go there, you found that women, we have nowhere to put our pads. You don't find there gel cans to wash our, as you know. But my request to KCC is, if it is possible, in their programs they have, they can build for us a toilet, a good toilet, whereby the toilet is separated for men and women.
Namatovulo Kadia sells cassava in Kalere Market. She says the most pressing issue as a vendor is childcare, as the market's authority have begun enforcing an old market regulation that forbids parents from bringing their children to work in the market.
We are requesting Kampala Capital City Authority to design an area in the market where we can keep our children while we're working. We cannot leave them at home alone, so the city authorities should help us in finding a place where they can care for until it's time to return home.
IST, Institute for Social Transformation's representative, says women have taken an important first step in coming together to demand action.
I would start by answering that question to ask how important is the G7 coming together? How is important is COMESA coming together? How important would the European Union be coming together? So it's a whole question about collective organizing, collective voice, being able to identify yourselves as one and be able to fight issues that affect you on a common ground.
Leocadia, however, is not very hopeful for the future.
If Kampala Capital City Authority and other authorities implement what we have discussed, then we have hope for change. But if the ideas are just left on paper and not included in their programming, then our hopes will just fade.
So Rita, while there, it was my impression that the leadership, whether it be the city or the commission of the market, weren't sensitive to the issues of women. Why was that so?
I think, of course, it comes from the issue of priorities. And when you look at, especially in Uganda, the priorities, you always find that issues that affect women come last on the list, if actually not missing totally on the list. Because when you look at the management of the city, for instance, they well understand that everyone in the city does shopping from the various markets. Of course, you visited one of them. But they are very precarious conditions in which these women work in, And worst not to say that those conditions even affect the hygiene and the health of the foods that we all purchase from there. But of course, to the city, it's not number one on their priority. That's why you find that the women will work in some spaces where there are no toilet facilities, that they will have no daycare centers where their children can be able to rest or learn when the businesses are going on. And more so to say that most of them are working under the scorching sun and the rain, that when it rains, they just want to work under such conditions that are not very favorable to their health, but also for them to attract the clients that they need so badly to be able to sell.
In the Ugandan case, it sounds like it isn't the priority, but as you've heard in the story, there are sexual harassment issues, that not being able to have what to take their children. I mean, men have mothers, daughters, sisters. Why aren't they sensitive in your view?
Oriane, for me, this seems like an issue that goes just beyond that marketplace. It's really, these are universal issues, I think, that women struggle with, whether this is in the informal sector or in the private sector. I think we need to look at how to gender-proof, I really love this term, how to gender-proof our work environments, because we're bringing women into a workspace that isn't really designed with them in mind. Traditionally, these were just spaces for men. So we really need to think about how do we meet women's needs, because if organizations are going to want to attract women and also retain them, they're really going to have to show that they are committed to changing the work environment, changing the work culture. And I really hope we can start hearing more, and I think this is already happening, but hearing civil society, in the media, in legislation, and politicians all start to hold organizations accountable on that score.
What is your view, Ayan?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Haiti. I think that change will come, not only when women enter the workforce, but when we are in positions of power. Because, one, I do think that we are stronger in numbers, but I do think that having women in high positions of power, whether it be, in Kampala and government or even in the marketplace, I think that these women can be in positions where they are advocating for a sexual harassment policy, or they are advocating for pump stations for women who need to pump breast milk. But I think that only happens when you have women in those places, because men are not.
Like
when you have the numbers, absolutely.
Yeah, let me bring it back to Kehinde. In your view, in some of the research you've done, in segregation in the employment sector, what are some of the things you think are the issues?
So some of the recent work we've done, we have a recent report that's come out that's addressing this fact that even though women, especially across Africa, are a large part of the labor force, they still have lower levels of earnings, both in formal jobs and in the private sector jobs and informal jobs. And one of the big core areas that we outline is the fact that there are contextual factors that matter. So the legal environment, whether there are laws that determine how property rights are allocated, whether women have access to land, whether they have access to different assets, what the rules are about things like employee-mandated provision of childcare. So there are a lot of countries in other parts across the world where there are laws requiring employers to provide childcare. Another issue in terms of contextual factors is things like social norms, whether there are norms in the society that women should do certain types of work, that certain types of spaces are the spaces that women should be in, what the rights are for women in terms of addressing gender-based violence and having protections in that. And so there is a lot of work showing that those are some things that could improve.
So it sounds like there is an issue with gender roles that are still very intrinsic in how people behave even in the workplace, and allowing women to just be women, it seems like it's still being challenged by the rules.
Absolutely. And we were talking earlier, I said that this is why we also need men to enter female-dominated workforces like nursing or, childcare.
Yes, one of the big constraints women face in the workforce is having constraints on their time. So in a lot of contexts across Africa, women are the primary caregivers. And so one of the big constraints to them engaging more in work is the fact that they have these commitments. And so different types of interventions to encourage men to take on a greater role in terms of childcare and other domestic duties is one approach that could be found to reduce the constraints that women face and allow them to engage more in employment and to have.
I agree with you on that, because it's like charity, right? It begins at home. You know, when we have men also playing that role, I see men also then coming forward and fighting for paternity rights.
Yeah.
You know, more paternity leave. But I want to ask you something very, very quickly about the treatment of women by other women, because sometimes having other women that can help, but I've also seen and experienced incidents where women have been really sometimes the culprits of holding other women back. How does one begin or even start to fix that issue? Because it's not a conversation we as women are very excited to have, but it's there, it exists, and I'm sure many of us have experienced it too.
Correct. Perhaps in the market leadership, there's probably a woman who's supposed to be advocating for her friends and aren't.
Yeah, I think this comes back to the fact that women are a large part of the labor force, but have different social networks, tend to have different social networks than men do. And that, again, provides, in some situations, a constraint to women in terms of accessing the type of support that they need to really excel or succeed in the workplace.
Well, what challenges do you see women face in the workplace, and what are some of the solutions? Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is @VOA Our Voices, and we're also on WhatsApp. The number is on your screen. We'd like to thank our guest, Rita Akutwasa, the director of IST, Institute for Social Transformation in Uganda. She joined us from Skype from Kampala, and of course, Kahinde Ajayi, the lead of the World Bank's Gender Innovation Lab Youth Employment Research, for joining us today. After the break, we'll switch gears a little bit to take a look at the wage gap for women and if it can be closed. We'll be right back.
Our Voices is about more than just sitting here and talking about women's issues. It's about listening to them
and bringing their opinions to the table and making sure their voices are heard.
Because our lived experiences, our stories, and our voices will help shape the next generation.
You're with Our Voices. Welcome back. The World Economic Forum estimates that the global gender gap will take 108 years to close, and the gender pay gap will take even longer, 202 years. In the next part of our discussion on women in the workplace, we shift the gears a bit and ask, what is driving this wage gap, and how does unequal pay in the workplace affect women on the continent? And I'd like to welcome Helen Fisahai. She's the CEO of F3 Global, based here in Washington. She works with women entrepreneurs across Africa and in the diaspora to help improve their capacity and give them access to trainings and networking opportunities. Helen, welcome back to Our Voices.
So good to have you back.
Nice to see you again.
Ladies, it's going to take 202 years.
2 lifetimes.
I mean, it feels great to know that your great-great-great-granddaughter might have a chance at equal pay for equal
work. Well, we better start now.
We're so much closer now. I mean, I don't even know what we're supposed to do.
But why is it going to take that long? I mean, I guess we can talk about it.
It's amazing. Helen, why do you think we still have a pay gap at this moment?
I feel like the simple answer, honestly, is that the world and men that control the world really don't see us as equals.
Right.
Clearly. Because if they did and they saw the multiplying effect of having a woman earn as much as you, who contributes ×2 as you, then you would recognize that it actually puts more money in your pocket, actually, by paying the woman next to you a little bit more.
And I couldn't agree with you more. It is about the power dynamics in the workforce, and the people who hold the power traditionally have not been people who look like us. And I think that they are afraid of losing that power to women who look like us. And that's what we're really fighting against. It's these power dynamics that are against us.
It's a lack mentality. Like, you think by giving her more, that you're going to lack something.
But it's not even more, it's the same. Equal
exactly.
pay. Equal pay.
That's more, right?
That's true. And the logic behind it all just always blows my mind that there is no logic behind it. Because for me, it's very simple. I always look around me, wherever I've worked in my life, I've looked around and I have asked myself, what are the men doing right now that I cannot do? What am I doing that they cannot do? And, is there anything that they do better than I do? And if the answer is no on all of that, why on earth am I being paid less? So that's always been, even when I was younger, I wasn't as outspoken about it as I became later in my life. But we've got to push for this harder every single time, especially because it doesn't make sense.
And I think that we also have to know our worth, which is something that I think a lot of women really struggle with.
I totally agree. I find that when I have male clients, even if they're startup businesses, they're so confident in their business and they're so like, yes, I deserve to get paid $250 an hour. I'm like, really? You just started.
So what are some of the things
But when I find a woman who has 10 times more the experience of that same man will say, oh, well, is that too high? Well, she constantly asks for affirmations and confirmation that, she's charging too much, right? And I think it starts as kids.
We really look at this logically, because even what I said earlier, I'm looking at my contemporaries, people who are doing the same work that I'm not saying I should earn as much as the CEO, but someone who is doing what I'm doing. And I think women are practical that way.
Maybe, yes, exactly. And Helen, maybe in the trainings that you've been giving these women on the continent, what are some of the tricks in the books that you teach them?
One interesting training we did was in Ethiopia. And it was focused around marketing yourself, but we talked about a shame culture, right? So in those cultures, and I'm from Eritrea, so we have the similar culture. It's a shame culture where a girl does not walk around saying, I'm the best, look at me, pay me for what I deserve. It's almost like you have to be recognized. And so we got to get out of that as women and say, like, I worked hard, I have the same education, I earned this, so this is the value. And this is what you need to pay me.
Right.
And not make excuses or not ask for anything else.
Helen, you spoke to someone in Ghana also.
Well, yeah, and it really goes to what you were saying, Helen, about culture. I'm from South Africa, and I don't know how it is in the countries you guys are from, but we don't really talk about how much we earn. It's just not, it's taboo. And of course, organizations like that it's taboo because, nobody knows how much the other earns. And so I just traveled to Ghana recently, and I spoke to a very interesting woman, Lilipal Baba Otu, and she's the CEO and founder of an organization called Bridge for Equity Ghana. And we talked about, equality. We talked about equity when it comes to pay. She mentioned something very interesting about how when a woman gets married, that just changes the dynamics of what you find out, what you ask around the pay gap. And just take a listen.
Gender pay gap in Ghana happens because of how they perceive a woman to be, especially when she's married. Let's say you're in the same position with a guy, they will think he has more responsibilities when it comes to money, and so they, tend to pay him a little bit more than you are, but you're doing the same job. It's hard to know how much your male counterparts are being paid, but when you compare to your friends or your spouse, you can tell that you're being cheated.
And this is so fascinating to me, because Lilipal also said organizations are going to have to come to terms with the fact that women are becoming the breadwinners. So you shouldn't just assume that a woman in the workplace is necessarily because she's married, she's being taken care of by a man. Those dynamics are changing, and everybody just better get with the program.
And something else that I think needs to change is I think that women need to be more comfortable negotiating their salaries. And I wanted to ask you about that, because I've read in a lot of places that women just don't negotiate for their salaries. Have you heard of this? And what's your advice to women who might be trying to negotiate for their salaries?
No, I agree. A lot of women don't negotiate. I have friends, I have clients who don't even negotiate the terms of the contract because they're a little bit scared, right? They feel like maybe they're grateful for whatever the situation may be, but again, it goes back to knowing your value and knowing the value of the work that you're producing. And then stick to that.
But are the leadership, the bosses also at least sensitive to women in the workplace?
I would love to say that they are, but I don't think so.
And remind them. If you're able to pull up your work and show what you have done, I think it's a great refresher.
They come back to you though, right? And teach them. I try to teach people lessons, right? So if you don't hire me the first time and you go and hire someone who is my male counterpart who's going to charge you 10 times more, but deliver less, you're going to come back to me because you know my value.
And then you charge more.
Then I charge you more.
That is so interesting. We'll have to stop it right there, ladies. I'd like to thank Helen Fisahai for joining us once again. It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Helen. Great to have you with us.
Helen Fisahai is the Principal Chief Strategist of F3 Global LLC.
Well, after the break, we'll introduce you to our Women to Watch. She'll share her personal story of harassment in the workplace. That experience ultimately forced her to quit her job and motivated her to start a non-profit that now advocates for women in her native country, Mali. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome back to Our Voices. It's time for a Women to Watch segment. Everyday African women on the continent and in the diaspora are doing extraordinary things. And today we highlight the contribution of our VOA colleague from the Bambara French to Africa service, Kadiatou Traoré. She's the founder of the Association for Solidarity, Aid and Action in Mali. Welcome, Kadiatou.
Good to have you.
Welcome.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so honored to be part of your beautiful team.
Thank you so much.
Like I talk every time, my voice is our voice.
Yes. Now you're part of our voice.
Finally,
you're part of our voice.
Yeah, finally, I'm here and with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
In set? Yes,
Okay,
for
thanks.
sure. Well, we're going to get right into it, Kadiatou. What drove you to start the nonprofit that you started in Mali?
Well, in Mali, I work as a prominent government staff members. So I faced the worst time in my career when the new boss, solicited me a sexual favors. It was very, very complicated situation for me. And he made my job a living hell when I did not give in to his advances. So I thought this situation will be, very, very
A safe
worse.
place.
Exactly, because in our society, it's very, very complicated to say that a man could, push up the woman and in this kind of situation. So, but when I refuse his advances, I refuse his advances, they push at me to the resignation. So, I lost my well-paying positions, and so I decided to go forward to the job, but and
moved on to
decided
better
to
things.
launch an organization, like a non-profit organization, to help other women who were going to these issues, and also, I would like to my voice to be heard.
Kadiatou, I really have a lot of respect for your generation because you guys really laid the groundwork for young women like me. We come into the workforce now and we know what our rights are.
Right.
It's in large part because of the work that you have done to fight for your own rights in the workplace. And I wonder, looking back at really your career, when you look at the workforce now, do you think that we are where we're supposed to be, or is there more work to do?
Oh, yes, of course, because I was talk to myself and said it should be started by something, The women do not react to that kind of situation when it's happening. But I said to myself that I took that decision to myself and said, and maybe I'm gonna get some voices added to mine and fighting against that issues.
Speaking of that, did you get any support from either family, community, or anywhere else?
A very few support.
Did people fight you back?
A very few support. Friend of mine told me, you have not to do that. I say, why? And when I said why, I asked why, she said, you know what I'm talking about it. You know where you're from. You have not to do that kind of, create that kind of a situation, because it could be another, create another problem to you, to yourself, and to your family also. But I see.
Well, Kadiatu,
that was a big frustration for me, and I decided, to express my frustration and to just tell to people, we have a right. We are women, and we have a right in the society.
Thank you so much, Kadiatu, for sharing your story with us.
Well, Kadiatu, because you used your voice, I'm sure you have emboldened a generation of women to use their voice as well. And we also want you to use your voice. Who do you think deserves a shout out? Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices and tell us who you think is a woman to watch in the fight for a better workplace for women and closing the wage gap. Also, be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website, where you can find the world's top news stories.
And we leave you with a quote from American journalist and the niece of the late U.S. President John F. Kennedy, who signed the Equal Pay Act into law in 1963. Maria Shriver used her voice to say, when we pay women less than men, we're telling women their work isn't as valuable. We're all equally valuable, and we should be paid equally.
And that's our final word for this week. I'd like to say thank you to our guest, Kehinde Kenny Ajayi of the World Bank's Gender Innovation Lab Youth Employment Research, Rita Akutwasa, Director of IST, Institute for Social Transformation, and last but not least, Helen Fisahai, CEO of F3 Global LLC, and also Kadiatu Traore. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it.
Yes. On behalf of the Voice of America, along with my colleagues, thanks for tuning in to this week's Our Voices. I'm Orion Itangishaka. Good day.
Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Sunday Shomari in for Jackson Mvunganyi. This week on the Red Carpet, we have a chat with Fikash Yeshewas, a rising star in the Ethiopian music, with her angelic voice and uplifting message in her songs. A new film explores the fight for the survival of the forest in Cameroon. In Nairobi, a new restaurant is using robots to serve dinners. The annual Basketball Festival 2024 will be held from October 24th to 27th at the University of Ghana in Accra. This year's festival opens with sports, fashion, and an entertainment summit. Organizers of the annual Africa Basketball Festival, ABF, recently launched the festival to celebrate African basketball and fashion in the United States at an event in Laurel in the state of Maryland. One of the speakers at the launch was former NBA player and basketball executive Nana Papayao Mensah-Bonsu, who spoke to Red Carpet about the potential and future of basketball in Africa.
I'm Pops Mensah-Bonsu here at the Africa Basketball Festival, celebrating the game, celebrate Africa, fashion, culture, and loving what they do by using the game of basketball to reach the youth. And you see the transcending abilities of the sport and how it can influence the younger generation. So, always going to support with that said. And, somebody like myself who has an academy too that wants to use the game of basketball to help influence the younger people of Ghana is beautiful to see. So I'm just glad to be a part of it and looking forward to what the future holds.
Yeah. So Africa is the youngest continent in the world, has the youngest population. What kind of potential do you see the game of basketball having on the continent?
I see infinite and endless potential. There's a reason why the BAL is in Africa now. There's a reason why the NBA and FIBA invested in the game. There's a reason why there's academies there. There's a lot of outside investment coming into Ghana now, or into Africa, I should say, because they see the talent. They see the pool. Obviously, like you said, Africa is going to be the youngest and largest population in the world in the next 10 to 15 years. So with that said, we have to make sure we equip this younger generation with the necessary tools to be successful. And, you know, using sports is definitely a way to expedite that process.
Fika Yeshewas, a rising star in the Ethiopian music scene, is captivating audiences with an angelic voice and uplifting message in her songs. Her latest album, Fika, meaning love in Amharic, delves into personal and social issues while also celebrating themes of love, self-discovery, and mutual respect. During a recent visit to VOA Studios, Yeshewas performed her music and sat down for an interview with our colleague, Hatam Seyum.
Salam. My name is Fikr Yeshewas. I am a singer, songwriter, and a designer. Hey. Salani lingarer, ownat maninatin, felsum nanyalalo, alamnam sitatin. I've always been singing ever since I was a kid. It just kind of grew up with me. I used to play a few instruments when I was a little kid and participate in the media programs and events while I was in elementary school. So I kept up with it up to a certain point, and then I'd stopped it for a little bit while I was doing my studies, and then once I finished, I sort of went back to it. I believe that music is a universal language, and I believe that it's a great tool to bring people together from all over the world. So I try to focus my music on peace and love and unity for the most part, and also just to talk about certain issues that are stigmatized and discriminated against by at least our culture and our society, and kind of bring that to light. I wanted to do something or release a song that was different and wasn't super mainstream, but still important to discuss. So my friend and I, when we were going over the topics of what to sing about or what to do for our first song, we decided that it would be about mental health. So that's kind of how it started, and I think it's a great topic to be discussed amongst people in the society, especially not just in our country, but in the African culture. I think it's something not talked about enough. I believe we have a lot to share when it comes to music and entertainment and culture with the rest of the world. So my goal is really to bridge the gap between our culture and our music with the Western world.
In the forests of Cameroon, a new battle is being waged not just for the survival of the trees, but for the preservation of cultural heritage and traditional medicine. The new film, A Cry from the Forest, produced by Cameroonian actress and filmmaker Laura Onyama, explores the devastating effects of deforestation in West Africa. VOA's Kali Abdu brings us the story of art intersecting with environmental advocacy.
As deforestation continues to threaten biodiversity across Africa, creative voices are rising to bring attention to the issue. In Cameroon, a new film titled A Cry from the Forest is doing just that. The movie, produced by Laura Nyama, highlights the struggle between traditional medicine and the encroaching modern world, all set against the backdrop of forest degradation.
Yeah, I'm a producer, actress, and I own a production company called Ola Productions. We just did our first movie, A Cry from the Forest, which was sponsored by WWF and AFD France. And this movie talks about forest conversion and the relationship between scientific medicine and traditional medicine from the perspective of the indigenous man.
For Nyama, this project was not without challenges. Being a first-time producer, she faced the hurdles of the film industry, but was buoyed by the support of her team and the local communities where they filmed. The story is deeply personal, reflecting the struggles of Cameroon's English-speaking minority in making their voices heard on both the national and international stages. The film's environmental message is echoed by experts worldwide who emphasize the critical state of our planet's biodiversity.
We are in the midst of a biodiversity crisis, a climate change crisis, and a pandemic crisis.
The issue of deforestation in Cameroon is not just a local problem, it is a global one. With forests being cut down at alarming rates, the loss of biodiversity is a significant concern. Experts argue that the future of our planet hangs in the balance.
Are we going to trash it? Are we going to destroy it? Or are we going to wake up and realize that the future of our planet is up to us, and we better take care of both its climate and its biodiversity?
In 2017, as deforestation accelerated, some communities in Cameroon began adopting alternative fuel sources to protect their forests. Residents in Mbile village, for example, started using clay stoves and briquettes made from sawdust, significantly reducing their reliance on firewood. This initiative helped save approximately 16 tons of dry wood per day, providing a model for sustainable living that could be replicated across the region.
Okay, personally, my production company is focused on making films on nature, environment, and wildlife. So trust me, when you hear of Ola Productions, expect such beautiful stories, documentaries, fiction films, and all of that. So that's what you should expect from Ola Production.
As A Cry from the Forest continues to tour, gaining recognition, it serves as a powerful reminder of the urgent need to protect our planet. The film not only raises awareness, but also amplifies the voices of those most affected by environmental degradation, calling for global action to preserve the natural world for future generations.
A new restaurant in Kenya is generating business and buzz, not just because of the food, but because of the staff. Robots serving dishes is the main attraction of diners who flock to the Robot Cafe. Juma Majanga reports from Nairobi, Kenya.
Welcome. It's lunchtime at the Robot Cafe in Nairobi's Kileleshwa suburb, and an unusual waitress is causing excitement.
Thank you, Nadia.
Nadia is one of 3 robot waitresses incorporated here to improve service delivery. This is a first in East Africa.
You assign them duties in the morning like normal waiters. You tell them which tables one particular robot is supposed to go or what is expected to do there. Because for instance, they do more than just serving. They sing happy birthday. For instance, let's say you do a reservation and you have a birthday. It's going to deliver you your cake with the message and everything, and also sing happy birthday with you with the background of waitresses.
Use of robotic technology in the food service industry is not new. Restaurants with robot waiters have opened in the United States, China, and other places. But the concept is new to Africa. Since opening in Nairobi 2 months ago, Robot Cafe staffers say the reception has been good, with the robots being the attraction for customers like Brooke Abito, who is here today with his family for lunch.
I was happy to show my kids this, in Africa, in your own backyard. So yeah, it was very good. You can see that the technology needs a bit of development, but it's really nice how the robots take the food, they come and serve you, and when I come back next time, I want to see the robots more interactive, taking your orders, bringing your food, but it's a very good first step.
According to government data, the hospitality industry is one of the big sources of employment in Kenya. The introduction of robots in the sector brings fears of people being driven out of work by machines. However, industry experts like Edith Ojuang say there is no cause for alarm, as the technology will just serve as a tool to improve efficiency and quality of service delivery.
I really don't think it can face off the entire human labor, but it will be incorporated still, just like we have incorporated the other technology, and we've used it to improve our human labor and worked together.
Ojuang's advice is for Kenyan schools to incorporate technology training into their hospitality curriculum in readiness for the shift.
If we keep training people the traditional way, and by the time they're released in the industry, technology has already gone a notch higher. It becomes scary for them already, and it becomes difficult to be able to adopt.
Experts say the era of automated restaurants has finally begun in Africa, and diners should expect more integration of robots in their dining experiences.
Thanks for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm your host for today, Sunday Shomari. For more on your entertainment news, please check us out on www.voaafrica.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye, everyone. Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Sunday Shomari in for Jackson Mvunganyi. This week on Red Carpet, a 24-year-old Nigerian amputee overcomes obstacles to pursue his Paris 2024 Paralympic dream. We chat with the Mozambican band Yababuluku Boys to learn more about the mega hit featuring Burna Boy. Africa's gaming industry is estimated to surpass $1 billion in revenue this year. Plus, Fashion Award winner Ruth Chirwa is transforming the industry in Malawi and other developing countries. Let's begin. 24-year-old Ide Umaru Jabiru says he always dreamt of one day carving out his path to the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games, and his amputated left arm was not an obstacle. VOA Africa reporter Bureima Balima has the young athlete's story from Niamey, Niger, narrated by Omar Kaseko.
Ide Umaru Jabiros grew up mimicking other martial arts athletes, but never imagined practicing martial arts like most young boys his age. He still believed in his heart that one day he will carve out his own path to the Paralympic Games. Now he's looking forward to participating in this year's Paris 2024 Paralympic Games, taking place from August 28 to September 8 in Paris. Jabiro says he believed his grandfather, who kept telling him to not see his amputated left arm as an obstacle.
When I was little, I liked playing football. It's football that I like the most. When I competed for the first time outside, it was in Turkey. People thought I was there because of football. Now, it's Taekwondo that has taken over.
Le foot. Mais malheureusement, c'est le taekwondo qui a pris tout.
The 24-year-old athlete has already made history as the first Paralympic athlete from Niger to compete in para-taekwondo, which debuted as a Paralympic game in Tokyo 2020. He attributes his success to his grandfather, who was his first coach. He calls him Papa Cho, a reference to Niger's Olympic coach, Grandmaster Hyonko Cho. His father, Ide Omaro, says Jabiro's discipline is remarkable.
Jabiro was 8 years old when he had an accident and his hand was amputated. After completing his high school diploma, he joined the club of Mi Tijani, the brother of his maternal grandmother. From the moment he entered the discipline, we noticed that he is really motivated, and by the grace of God, he has reached this stage. I never thought he could reach this level. Since he left, we regularly receive his calls. Now we wish him good luck. We pray for him every day.
Jabiro says he couldn't contain his excitement the moment he realized he could take his dream to the world stage.
My objective is not to participate for the sake of participating. It is to participate to make our national anthem, the national anthem of Niger, resound.
Jabiro's participation in the Paris 2024 Paralympics Games will be closely followed by his fans. As a young Nigerian with a disability to engage in sports and compete internationally, Jabiro's achievement is a source of pride for his family and his country.
The Yaba Buluku boys from Mozambique captured international attention with their single Yaba Buluku, especially after a collaboration with Nigerian megastar Burna Boy turned the song into a global hit. The group spoke to Red Carpet's VOA's Jackson Mvunganyi about how the band came together and how Burna Boy involvement made the already chart-topping song into a massive global hit.
It took, I guess, three forces of Mozambican contemporary music to come together into one unit to be able to break that barrier that has been there for a long time. To cross over and you've done it. Were you surprised at the feedback internationally?
Was like a dream, bro. Yeah, it was like something that someone will wake up me, bro.
Yeah. This is not happening.
Yeah. We won't expect that because that the music will be a bang in Mozambique. We were expecting that, but
because you had the market already, you had the audience.
Yeah. Because almost everything we produce, we do
it does well.
It does well.
Yeah.
In Mozambique. Yeah. But not outside. You see?
Yeah.
Outside Mozambique and then Nigeria.
We are the first Mozambican hitting Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah, in Mozambican history.
And that was before Burna Boy jumped on the song?
Yes, the original was #1 song.
No way.
Wow. That's why Burna Boy was
that's how we got interested.
Yes.
Like I have to jump on this.
So the first guy was
who reached out.
He reached out through his
representative.
Through his artist. One of his artists.
Leah.
No, the boy, the guy, the songwriter.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So we was planning to go to Nigeria because the song was banging there.
Yeah.
So we was chatting that we are coming there. When David went back to Nigeria, he called me, bro. This guy is down here. Where you were, man? Where? I said, no, bro, we didn't come now, but will come soon. On that time, our manager called Tariq and said, hey, bro, what do you think, what do you feel if the Burna Boy want to jump on this song?
Yeah. Wow.
What a question. What a question. Bro, just record and send us the stems. Yes. You see, and then on that time, record time. Yeah, that he record, he send the stems, but the master
producer
did his work.
absolutely.
Did it well. So we fly to Nigeria to shoot the video, and yeah, the song was banging. The song was #1 in Nigeria, was #1 in South Africa, was #1 in Namibia, was #1 on all platforms. The song was #1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Africa's gaming industry is estimated to surpass $1 billion in revenue this year. Its rapid growth is fueled by a young population, better internet access, and a rising number of game developers who focus on animation and storytelling. Some creative artists in Kenya have developed video games and films based on African folklore and urban tales. Mohammed Yusuf reports from Nairobi.
After more than 6 months of working on their gaming and animation projects, these creative Kenyan young men and women have been finally able to showcase their work at the Alliance Francaise in Nairobi, hoping fans will like their African stories and buy their video games at home and abroad. Their video gaming and animation development was funded by the French government. Saj Nukwe is a film and media attaché at the French embassy in Kenya. He says the embassy has sponsored these creative artists.
That's impressive.
Well, game and animation are two vectors of employment. We believe the creative industries in general are a great source of employment because the entry point is not as high as other sectors. And we have just so much talent, so many people that are creative, that have projects, that have ideas and concepts, but they are not able to go all the way with them just because of lack of resources. So that's where we saw a gap, and we wanted to come in to change the paradigm and hopefully allow the whole ecosystem to become sustainable.
Can I tell you the legend of Mbika?
The attendees of Kenya Young Game Developers and Animators Incubator Program watched a video game exploring cultural and environmental themes such as climate change. Other short films covered topics like mental health, family connections, romantic relationships, as well as existential issues.
I think what I would like to see is many people playing it, especially from Africa, and people being able to identify with it, because one thing I've noticed is that there are many young people who play games in Africa, and but they mostly play Western games. And when we ask them, they say, because, you know, our games are not that cool, you know, and so this is me trying to make something cool for the young people, and I hope they will see it like as such.
And I would say the importance of storytelling in gaming is it's very crucial, because we need to tell our own stories through digital mediums such as animation and gaming.
The video game market in Africa has shown promising growth, from $862 million in revenue in 2022 to a projected $1 billion in 2024, an 8.7% increase according to the Newzoo Games Analytics company. These events in Kenya are part of a greater effort to support game developers and animators, help them finance their projects, learn new skills, and help them realize their dreams.
Ruth Chirwa is transforming the fashion industry in Malawi and other developing countries, winning awards and gaining international recognition for her designs. Chirwa's fashion line, Upi Collection, is hosting a fashion show next month that aims to break down barriers between people with disabilities and those without. Lamek Masina reports from Mzuzu City in northern Malawi.
Ruth Chirwa's entry into the fashion industry was not planned.
I never thought about fashion designing. I never thought that I'll be a fashion designer. Growing up, all I thought was I would do business management.
But that changed when a lecturer suggested she switched to fashion design because of the stylish outfits she wore to class. Now, 3 years into her career, Chirwa has received praise for her designs and started a fashion brand Upi collection based in Zuzu, Malawi.
I remember in 2022, I managed to win an award for Focus on Ability short films first of all. I won as Best Actress on my documentary that I submitted.
She was also named the Best Female Star Fashion Designer at the 2023 Shining Stars Africa Awards. And recently, Chilwa's designs were shown in Portugal thanks to the help of fellow Malawian designers Rili Alfonso and Zandria. It has not always been easy for Chilwa, who recalls times when some people refused to buy clothes from her because she has a disability. But she says she has managed to curb discrimination by believing in herself and meeting her clients' expectations.
When it comes to my creations, I always want to deliver, and also it's a matter of me doing what I know best.
Celebrities and prominent fashion designers in Malawi like Chris Ngalu appreciate the uniqueness of her designs.
A lot of fashion designers in Malawi, they like to just stand behind making clothes with, like, for example, Chitenje and stuff. But her stuff is like out of the box. It's very modern and it's a breath of fresh air.
Chilwa has also become a source of pride for her former learning institution.
Ruth has inspired many learners with disabilities here. Most people with disabilities tend to be down on themselves, but Ruth has proven that anyone can do anything.
Chilwa is preparing to host a fashion show early next month that aims to challenge societal norms and promote diversity and inclusion, especially of people with disabilities. Lamek Masina, VOA News, Zuzu, Malawi.
Thanks for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm your host, Sunday Shomari. For more information on entertainment news, visit www.voaafrica.com or find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Welcome. The lounge is kind of empty today, ladies, on Conversations. Why, for me? Did you drive my sisters?
Never mind, it's going to get full along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Many other people are joining us today. But you know, I'm quite excited about what we're talking about today because I'm one of those, and I know that even for me is already doing something to try and help education in Nigeria. You know, I just worry about the kind of education our children are getting today. And we're going to be having a conversation around how important or in what areas should governments be creating interventions to help ensure that the foundation for our children, or generally education is available to everybody. You know, I take it for granted that in my time, although I went to some kind of semi-private school, you know, up a motor in Benin City, up a motor, I did, but I know that school was fun, but school was serious, and we had the best. I wonder what you think about education today.
Well, my worry is that what could happen in our time, like you said, even if you went to what we call public school.
Did you go to
in
public
Nigeria?
school?
I did. I went to the school that they now call Awolowo School. It was free education. That's the kind of primary school I went to. And I then went into an Anglican secondary school, high school. But these were not high fee paying schools. And therefore, my worry today is the fact that social mobility is stuck. Well, it means you are not able to move from one social strata to another.
Absolutely.
If you were not very rich. It happened ordinarily in our time.
Education was a leveler.
I think it started changing in my time, because I know I was like 4 primary schools. I started off in government school, so to say, and it was Catholic and it was nice. And we had a mix of people that went to markets, send their kids there, and people that had good jobs in government at the time and all of that. But it started to change, and people started to pull out their kids from those public schools and started to go a bit private. Maybe for some, I don't know what my parents
So you ended up in private school.
Yeah, I ended up in private school.
So you're a Jebota.
Well, she is.
I'm mixed now. Maybe I did both.
Oh, you did both. You experienced both, which honestly you can see in people's lives when they have been through all of that. But more importantly is that education in any country should allow that mixture of people from different backgrounds, number one, and it should be a base for social mobility.
To build.
Yeah, to build. People should be able to move from that hawker's
By the time I got to
hawking
high school,
child.
it was almost like really rich. I think I was one of the poor kids, so to say, because the kind of names that you hear in school, it's almost like if you are not in a particular strata or whatever wealth, you don't even get to meet.
I was having a conversation with some young women recently, and we were talking about how secondary school was horrible. Traumatizing. Because in secondary school today, you find children, when they come back from holiday,
oh my goodness,
where did you go for summer? Somebody stood up and said, Enugu, and they're like, Enugu.
However, it happened with me at university. It didn't happen until I was at university. And university, everybody went for summer. My father being the draconian, I worked through every summer. So I just awaited those who went to summer and
hear all the gist.
Hear all the gist. Find out what the fashion was going to be in the new year.
Anyway, but the truth is, like you both have said, education is a leveler. When you have gone to school, it equalizes people.
It
should. Do you think, I wonder if that is what is happening today.
No.
Because if it were the poor schools, that means government has failed us in some areas.
Oh, definitely. Yes. I hope, Adeswada, that's not the conversation for today, because we could talk all day about the failure of the educational system. I'll throw in something here. Zimbabwe, as we look at Zimbabwe, is the one country in Africa that the relative, educated population relative to the rest of the population is the highest. And Zimbabweans are taking most of the jobs in Africa, across Africa, because of their educational system. So when government fails in the area of education, it's a massive crisis. And
but you should know, because you're hiring people. I mean, imagine when you have to hire people today.
Oh no, don't go there. And I'm going to, when we get our guests,
specialists, yes,
I'm going to ask, because I think one of the biggest failures at the moment that people are not thinking about. People are thinking, oh, the schools are not good, the people coming out are not good. But somebody had identified for me the biggest failure of education is that who are the people who are becoming teachers?
Oh wow.
What schools do they go to themselves?
Yes.
What education do they
so
have
it has
themselves?
come to the stage where the generation that education started failing are the ones who are the teachers.
Oh, wow. That's dangerous.
And guess who? The ones that go to private schools and the top schools don't really want to teach. So we're getting the people who didn't get good education as the teachers.
Well, the good thing is, though, I know that in recent times, the United Nations is trying, at least through UNICEF, trying to create an awareness about why people need to take education seriously. And I have somebody who's representing them, and I have a mother, I have a professor, I have an angel, well, different people that are going to join us, which is why we must take a break at this point.
To help us shed light on the different aspects.
Let me call for a break, sisters. Right?
All right.
That explains why our other sisters are not here. Before they think that we have killed them and chopped them hands. We'll be right back on Conversations, if you don't go away.
Welcome back to the lounge. So we're actually a lot more now. So we're going to be talking about this issue that we already started to talk to before we went on the break. And then just before we went on the break, we were talking about how we feel like the education system has failed or has changed. And then we have so many people in the set today that are going to tell us what we can do better, and tell us what the challenges have been and what we can do better. With me today, I'm sorry.
She's killed two of us.
I'm sorry. With us today, we have Azuka from UNICEF that's going to throw more light. I have questions for you. I've been targeting you. We have a professor that's going to tell us what the challenges are. Please, can you introduce yourself,
Professor Sonyi. Professor Sonyi from University of Lagos.
Welcome, ma.
Thank you very much.
So we have Stacy from the Bridge International. Her own is to make sure that people are getting education in Nigeria, even when you don't have money. And then we have a beneficiary, Emmy. So they're all going to be sharing their experience with this education and all the drama. So please, I want to ask first, in your experience with UNICEF, would you agree that a lot of Nigerians say that there's a cultural thing to education? What I mean is that, for instance, people say Yoruba people are the most educated in Nigeria, and that's because they take it personally. Whether they have money to eat or not, their children must go to school.
For example, we hear that Ekiti has
all the professors
are from. See one sitting right here.
Are you from Ekiti?
No, but professors are. The way you think professor, you're thinking the Yoruba tribe. Is that true? That
well, I wouldn't want to go in the direction of tribes, but I want to say that statistics that is available to UNICEF actually confirms that there's a lot of gap between the South and the North. Generally, in terms of access to education. Also in terms of quality, provision, delivery of quality education. So clearly, there are issues around access, and it shows that more children are accessing education in the South, be it Southwest, Southeast, South, much more than we're having children going to school in Northern Nigeria.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering though, you see, I think, for example, Prof might be able to tell us, because you're a professor in UNILAG, early childhood education is your focus. What are the statistics telling us today? Are you also heard of some?
Yes, Early Childhood Association of Nigeria.
Okay.
It's an association that networks with all the people, the stakeholders in early childhood education. And early childhood education in Nigeria, as of today, has risen up.
Oh, really?
Yes, because we have
I'm
a
sure
lot. Yes.
Azuka doesn't agree with you.
Yes, the statistics as of 2016 show that about 60% of our children are in school. But then, the 40% that are out of school, they will constitute danger to those 60% that are already in school. That was what the statistics has just indicated.
If I may ask, when you say it's rising up,
yes,
it's relative. From when to when?
Oh,
so when are you comparing the information?
In the past, it was about 2%. Yes.
When you say past, 100 years ago?
No, about 50 years ago.
Oh, really?
About 50 years ago, we are talking about 2%.
It's gone from 2%
then we said the 98% of children who are not in school, in early childhood, they will eventually constitute problem. They are the children that you find under the bridges. They are the ones on the streets. But now the situation is improving.
Professor, it's difficult to accept from